Ethan held a date card, the meeting address and time written clearly on it. He tucked the card into the backpack he'd carry tomorrow. Exhausted from a busy day, he expected to fall asleep quickly, but found his mind unusually alert. He thought about tomorrow's dates. Christopher was a given. His date card would surely go to Olivia Bennett. That left Logan paired with Victoria Harper. How would Victoria plan their date? Where would they go? What would they do? What kind of breakfast and lunch would they eat? What would they talk about? Ethan's thoughts spiraled. He remembered his own date with Victoria. How she'd ambiguously brushed against his leg while applying mosquito repellent. How her smile lit up over ice cream and cotton candy. How she took countless photos with her camera, claiming she was capturing happy moments, yet nearly every shot featured him. That day had been wonderful, right up until he returned and said things. Things that upset her. Ethan imagined Victoria teasing Logan tomorrow the same way she teased him. Just the thought felt like an insect bite to his heart, a sharp pang that almost stole his breath. His thoughts grew wilder, more absurd, chasing away any lingering sleepiness. Utterly frustrated, he pulled the blanket over his head, then kicked his legs restlessly. One word echoed in his mind: annoying. The next day, Ethan was visibly drained and had no appetite for breakfast. He threw on some clothes, grabbed his backpack, and headed out. Opening the door, he saw Victoria Harper standing in the hallway. She wore a red dress today, and he caught her fragrance even before getting close. Victoria had put on makeup, her already beautiful features appearing even more refined, almost sharp with an edge of challenge. "Do I look good?" Ethan nodded instinctively, then caught himself. "Are you planning to wear that for your date today?" he asked stiffly. "Yes," Victoria replied, nonchalantly twisting a bracelet on her wrist. "Grace Parker already left. I heard from the director you earned $1,000 cash yesterday, working hard on tasks from morning till night. You must be really looking forward to your date with her today." No, he hadn't worked hard for Grace Parker. He'd done it for his promise to Victoria. Normally, Victoria would have pressed him, but today she just smiled cryptically. "I'm going on a date with Logan today. He said he's taking me to Cedar Springs Amusement Park. We'll ride the roller coaster, the Ferris wheel. He mentioned Six Flags. There has fireflies at night. I've never been to Six Flags, you know. Never seen fireflies either." A buzzing filled Ethan's ears, like two bees had flown straight into his head and stung him hard. His brow furrowed involuntarily, his right eyelid twitching. He watched Victoria, her lips intentionally emphasized with lipstick, curved upwards, full and defined. A faint, knowing smile played on her lips. Confidence? Mockery? "You seem very happy. Going with Logan." Victoria hadn't dressed up nearly this much for their date. Victoria took 2 steps closer, poking Ethan's tense arm. Smiling lazily, she said, "Yeah, well, I like guys a couple years younger than me. Unlike some people who don't like older sisters or aunties. Won't even give them a chance. So, Ethan, am I your older sister or your auntie?" Ethan remembered cutting Victoria's hair, how he'd coldly stated his preference against older women, sisters or aunties, just to avoid any ambiguity between them. Hearing her bring it up now felt like the bullet he'd fired had ricocheted straight back, hitting him square between the eyes. Victoria certainly held a grudge. Seeing his silence, Victoria started tracing circles on his arm with her fingertip. "Angry? Giving me the silent treatment." "Not angry," Ethan mumbled, "as if I can't tell whether you're angry or not." Ethan was the most even-tempered person she knew. He hadn't even argued during 3 years of being messed around by Amelia Harper, only showing some backbone on the day the engagement was broken. Anyone else would have probably smashed things. Ethan excelled at patience and restraint. When angry, his eyebrows would draw together unconsciously, his dark eyes would stare intently, and his lips would press into a thin line. Ethan had beautifully thin lips. They said people with lips like that were the most stubborn. Victoria's curiosity flared. She wanted to see just how stubborn Ethan could be. "Then call me sis, let me hear it." Ethan met Victoria's teasing gaze, heat rushing to his head. He raised his hand and gently tapped hers away from his arm, where she'd been drawing circles. The spot tingled. "I don't want to," Ethan forced out. "A younger guy not calling me sis. Your thoughts are running a little wild, aren't they? Or maybe you want to call me auntie?" Victoria's mind conjured up some rather R-rated images, like Ethan, panting, calling her little uncle. A blush crept up her face, and she took a small step back, her gaze flickering away from his as she muttered, "Well, that wouldn't be entirely out of the question." Ethan definitely didn't want to call her uncle either. Seeing the pink tinge on Victoria's cheeks, he changed the subject. "I have to go. He was going to be late, and he valued punctuality." Victoria looked up, her expression serious. "Call me at 4 this afternoon to confirm when you'll be back, preferably home by 5. If you're late, I'll have someone else celebrate my birthday with me tonight. I'll have Logan take me on the Ferris wheel, we'll have a candlelit dinner at the Cheesecake Factory, and go see the fireflies. Ethan's throat tightened. Okay. Victoria's lips curved into a smile. She suddenly reached out, straightening his collar and smoothing the wrinkles on his shirt. Remember my number, XXX 945-20. Got it. Her number was easy to remember. The first few digits were very similar to his own. Got it. Go on then, Victoria said, dropping her hands. Ethan could feel her eyes on his back as he walked away. After a few steps, he glanced back. Sure enough, he caught the flicker of loneliness in her eyes. He waved. I'll definitely be home on time. With that, Ethan quickly ran off. Victoria stared blankly at his retreating figure. It would be a lie to say she wasn't upset. The thought of Ethan spending the day with Grace Parker made her heart clench uncontrollably. She pressed a hand to her chest, picturing Ethan's smiling face as he looked back. She trusted him. He would come home on time. After that little scene, she doubted Ethan could truly enjoy his date with Grace Parker today. She wanted him thinking about her while he was out with someone else. A smile touched Victoria's lips. She went back inside, changed out of the dress, pulled her hair into a simple ponytail, and wiped off her lipstick. She had no desire to date another man, but she'd promised the director she wouldn't cause trouble and would follow the rules. Fine, she'd just go for the motions. Ethan arrived at the meeting spot right on time. He saw Grace Parker from a distance. She held an umbrella, dressed in a preppy skirt, looking youthful, sweet, and lovely, like she'd stepped right out of their school days. Grace Parker had a huge male fan base. When she first debuted, with her long, straight black hair and sailor uniform, smiling for the camera, fans dubbed her the childhood sweetheart goddess. 5 years into her acting career, Grace Parker's first role was in a school drama. Later, she frequently starred in fantasy romance dramas. She was lucky. Her very first show became immensely popular, gaining her a significant following. Subsequent fantasy dramas were hit after hit. To improve herself, and also because of a bet with her agent, Lillian Bennett, she pivoted to Hollywood. Starting with supporting roles, she gradually worked her way up to lead actress, winning her first Best Supporting Actress award, followed by her first Best Actress award. Her luck was extraordinary. Netizens called her a destined star, the kind fate itself chased after to feed opportunities. And she held tightly onto that bowl. In this world, talent determines your ceiling, and effort determines your floor. Grace Parker was exactly what people talked about, someone more outstanding than you, who also worked harder. She worked year-round, spending 365 days rotating through production crews, seamlessly moving onto the next project. Some called her a model worker. Others said she was too obsessed with money, wasting her talent. But during her most exhausting times, she thought, just a little more effort, hold on a bit longer. Once she won Best Actress, no one would bother her about dating anymore, and she could go find Ethan, get back together with him. When she finally received the Best Actress title, screens were flooded with praise for her being the most hard-working, career-minded person. But in reality, it was being love-driven that had gotten her this far. Seeing Ethan, Grace Parker's eyes lit up as if illuminated by fireworks. It had rained a little this morning, leaving the umbrella slightly damp. The rain stopped just as Ethan appeared. Seeing the golden light on the horizon, she knew today was destined to be a good day. Ethan walked up. Been waiting long. I just got here myself, Grace Parker said, handing Ethan the bubble tea and yo-chow she was holding. You probably haven't had breakfast, right? This is for you. Ethan didn't take it immediately. Instead, he took the umbrella from her hand. Let me fold this up for you first. They walked and ate breakfast together, bubble tea and yo-chow, a classic combination that couldn't go wrong. Besides the yo-chow, the breakfast bag Ethan carried also contained mochi. He wrapped the mochi with the yo-chow, taking a bite that was crispy on the outside and soft on the inside, pairing it with a sip of bubble tea, pure satisfaction for the whole day. Ethan often used to eat like this back in school. Grace Parker remembered it clearly. But Ethan didn't eat like that anymore. The reason was simple, a weak stomach. Mochi wasn't easy to digest. Grace Parker didn't know this, however. Seeing the mochi in the bag, she asked him why he wasn't eating it. My stomach's not great. Eating too much gives me acid reflux and pain. I'll eat it later when I'm hungry. How could Ethan have a weak stomach? He used to eat hot pot while simultaneously having shaved ice, adding extra Thai chilies to his dipping sauce, always opting for the most numbing and spiciest hot pot. When they visited his home for Thanksgiving, Grandma Miller made pierogi, and he could easily stuff down 50 pieces without any indigestion. Grandma Miller often told him to eat slower, eat less, not to ruin his stomach, but Ethan never listened. Who knew her words would unfortunately come true? But Ethan's stomach problems weren't caused by overeating. They were caused by starvation. When Ethan was 5, he was abused by his mother. He was only taken in by Grandma Miller in Greenfield Township when he was 6. Back then, Ethan was painfully thin, like a little monkey, covered in injuries from head to toe, a truly pitiful sight. Perhaps starving for so long had caused psychological issues. Ethan loved to eat large mouthfuls and consumed a lot. He didn't have many hobbies, but he loved exploring food places, always taking Grace Parker whenever he found a good spot. After his grandmother passed away, he was taken back by the Johnson family, where he was manipulated, abused, and often went hungry, eating one meal and starving the next. Later, the immense mental stress made him throw up whatever he ate, and that's how his stomach problems developed. Grace Parker didn't know any of this. So, when Ethan said he couldn't eat the mochi because of his stomach issues, she thought he was lying to her, trying to push her away. The dating spot Grace Parker had chosen this time was the food street near University Heights. They took a car over a 1-hour drive, arriving just at 8 o'clock. "Feels like we're back in school all of a sudden," Grace Parker said. Ethan seemed somewhat distracted. Hearing Grace Parker's words, he merely nodded. Grace Parker pointed to a stall. "Jianbing guozi? Looks pretty good. Want some? We just had breakfast. Eating such a big crepe might be too much. How about some baboji? I remember you like boneless chicken feet. I don't feel like eating spicy food right now. The egg burgers look really fragrant too. That Rujiamo place has a long line. There's also takoyaki, donkey meat sandwiches, egg-baked cakes. I remember you like the meat floss filling. For dohua, you prefer the savory and mala kind. When you eat intestine noodle soup, you like to add a pork wakue to soak in the broth. For noodles, you like the dry mixed yibin ramyun with extra Thai chilies. And for chow show, you always choose the extra numbing kind." Grace Parker talked nonstop as they walked. The streets were packed with food stalls, and since it was the weekend, it was very crowded. With the cameraman following them, they turned every head. Grace Parker had many casual fans. Even in Oak Ridge community, people lined up for her autograph, let alone here. Someone shouted her name dramatically, and the news spread like wildfire. One person told 10, 10 told 100, and soon people from several streets overcame to see. What was supposed to be a nice date turned into a fan meet and greet. Fortunately, the fans and passers-by knew to keep their distance and didn't crowd them excessively. Ethan always knew Grace Parker had many fans, but this was the first time he directly experienced how terrifyingly popular she was. Besides the cameraman, Grace Parker's date was also protected by security detail the entire time. People not only recognized Grace Parker, but also Ethan. "Ethan, we all support you. Remember to live well, and don't let unimportant people affect your mood. Ethan, I'm your fan. You look even more handsome than on your Twitch streams." Grace Parker, "Do you like Ethan?" a fan asked point blank. Grace Parker just wanted a proper date with Ethan. She never expected such a huge crowd. Immersed in the date, she had completely forgotten she was a Best Actress winner with over 50 million followers. She looked at Ethan, carefully observing his expression, and momentarily distracted, she stumbled over something. Ethan caught her with lightning reflexes, pulling her protectively to his side. "Excuse me, please make way. We're currently filming a show. Please don't disturb our work." Ethan wore a stern expression, his gaze cold, thin lips pressed tightly together. He looked very angry. Perhaps remembering the recent online buzz, Ethan's relationship with the Yayan group, his powerful backer. Someone got scared and took several steps back. Gradually, more and more people chose to leave. The crowd dispersed, and the path cleared. "I'm sorry," Grace Parker said, frowning, looking uneasily at Ethan, terrified of seeing disappointment or displeasure on his face. "I just thought this food street was famous and had lots of things you like, so I wanted to bring you here to try them. I didn't expect there would be so many people." Ethan shook his head. "It's not your fault. You don't need to apologize. But I ruined our nice date," Grace Parker said miserably. Ethan lifted his wrist to check his watch. "It's still early. It's not ruined." Grace Parker asked, "Well, do you want to eat something then?" After walking for so long, Ethan's stomach should have digested breakfast by now, right? "I'm not hungry yet," Ethan replied. "Besides, I don't really like street food that much anymore." He didn't like street food anymore, and similarly, he didn't like her anymore. Grace Parker understood Ethan's unspoken message. Her knuckles turned white as she clenched her fists, but she pretended not to understand. "If you don't like street food, there are other options nearby." Grace Parker suddenly spotted something and pointed. "I didn't expect to find Cajun cuisine here. I wonder if it's authentic. How about we eat here for lunch?" Cajun cuisine was famous for its fresh spiciness. To make it well, the ingredients had to be fresh above all else. Ethan had specifically researched it because he liked it and even knew how to make a few signature Cajun dishes himself. He hadn't just liked it in this life, but in his previous one too. However, due to his worsening stomach problems, he could barely handle any spice anymore. "Do you want to eat it?" Ethan asked. After all, he wasn't eating alone. A date should consider both people's feelings. "Yes, I haven't had Cajun food in ages. You used to be so good at making it. Every time I ate it, it was so spicy I'd keep gulping down water, but I just couldn't stop. I wonder when I'll ever get to taste your cooking again." By the end, Grace Parker's tone and expression were filled with regret. Ethan replied, "I haven't cooked it in a long time. I'm totally out of practice. If you want Cajun, a restaurant will definitely make it better. I know a few places in Rosewood City. I can share them with you. You could get takeout." He always rejected her, leaving no room for hope. Grace Parker stiffly managed an okay. She pretended not to care, but her heart couldn't pretend not to ache. They entered the restaurant. A waiter greeted them enthusiastically with menus. "Please sit anywhere. Take a look and see what you'd like." Ethan pushed the menu towards Grace Parker. "You order." Grace Parker ordered a round of signature dishes, all things Ethan used to eat frequently. "Is that enough?" Ethan glanced at the order. 4 meat dishes, 1 vegetable, 1 soup. It was a bit much for 2 people, but their security detail and photographer were also present, so it wouldn't go to waste. "Yes." The waiter collected the menus and brought them a pot of tea. Ethan habitually rinsed their tableware with the hot tea. Across from him, Grace Parker watched him intently, lost in memories, until Ethan handed her the rinsed utensils. She accepted them with a smile. "You're still the same as before. You haven't changed." Ethan continued rinsing his own bowl without looking up. "Only the habits haven't changed. The person has. You can sense that too, can't you?" He then stood up. "I'm going to buy a couple of bubble teas. What do you want?" "The usual." "Tell me the name." "I've forgotten." Ethan really didn't indulge her at all. Grace Parker smiled wryly. "Honey pomelo. Less sugar, less ice." Facing Ethan's cold attitude, it would be a lie to say she didn't regret things. If only she had been more mature back then. If she had discussed things with him properly, told him about her situation, knowing Ethan's personality, he would definitely have understood. But she had chosen delay and concealment, thinking that with time, all the unpleasantness would simply disappear. Ethan quickly returned with 2 bubble teas. His was room temperature. He handed the iced one to Grace Parker. Grace Parker chewed on her straw. While waiting for the food, she noticed Ethan occasionally glancing at his watch and assumed he was hungry. "It's not too busy now. Our table should be served soon." Ethan murmured an his mind filled with the image of Victoria Harper in a red dress. Dressed like that, where would she and Logan go on a date? What was she doing right now? Was she having lunch with Logan? What kind of food did Victoria Harper like? He realized he knew almost nothing about her. Logan was a couple of years younger than Ethan, full of youthful energy, bouncing around energetically every day. Unlike himself, who looked young but was actually getting on in years. The more Ethan thought, the more unsettled he felt. He jabbed a straw in his cup and took a hard sip. He'd ordered honey lemon, but he wondered if the staff had forgotten the sugar, his mouth filled with sourness. The restaurant served the food quickly. Quick-fried liver and kidney, rabbit with fiery chilies covered in millet peppers, tender carp with scallions, dry-fried pork intestines, stir-fried water spinach, and clam and vermicelli soup. Ethan hadn't eaten Cajun cuisine in a long time. He definitely wanted to eat it, but he was afraid his stomach couldn't handle it. So, he only took a couple of bites of the meat dishes, mainly sticking to the soup and vegetables. "This place seems quite authentic," Grace Parker commented. Since becoming an actress, she had maintained a very light diet for figure management. Suddenly eating something heavy in oil, salt, and spice certainly awakened her taste buds, but she couldn't handle the chilly heat, constantly drinking water. It was obvious Grace Parker hadn't wanted this for herself, but had ordered these dishes to cater to Ethan's tastes, only to discover that neither of them could handle the spice anymore. Their food choices highlighted the problems in their relationship. Blindly trying to please the other person only made things difficult for oneself. Watching Ethan barely eat, noting he only picked at the crucian carp, supposedly his favorite, Grace felt a pang. Was eating with her really that difficult to stomach? These were all dishes he used to love. Grace Parker asked in a hoarse voice, "Is being on a date with me really boring?" "No." "Then why aren't you eating any of these dishes?" "I remember." "Stop saying you remember," Ethan interrupted her. "Grace Parker, people change. You should move on too." "But I can't move on." Grace Parker's throat tightened, unable to hide the quiver in her voice. "Ethan, are you mad that I went into Hollywood to act back then without telling you first?" "I can explain." Ethan put down his chopsticks. Career and love don't have to conflict. Choosing your career was understandable. People have to prioritize themselves first before others. You just wanted to become better. I don't blame you for that. Back then, he had just reached adulthood, his thinking immature. He had resented Grace Parker for changing her college plans last minute, felt jealous when she filmed scenes with other men, and felt betrayed when she broke her promises to him. Later, he came to understand. If a relationship makes you unhappy or stifled, it proves it's not right. Grace Parker chose her career for herself, and he chose to break up and cut contact with her for his own peace of mind. Was there a right or wrong in that? It was just a matter of different perspectives, different viewpoints, different ways of looking at things, different thoughts. Grace Parker's eyes reddened. Ethan, I'd rather you blame me than face me so calmly. After we broke up, I was miserable. The reason I went into acting back then was to earn more money. Enough money to open a shop for my mom, buy a house downtown, and move my mom and your grandma Miller in together. I thought if I just had money, I could come back to you, be with you openly. Ethan paused, frowning as if he didn't quite understand. What did you take me for back then when we were together? Did you see me as some simp you needed to provide for? No, that's not it. Grace Parker explained frantically. Right after we got together, your dad came to see me once. At 18, Grace Parker was sensitive and insecure. Her relationship with Ethan felt ripped straight from the pages of an angsty, cliché YA novel. Ridiculous, yet painfully real. Grace Parker came from a single-parent household. Her father had been abusive, and her mother had killed him accidentally during a struggle, serving 3 years in prison before her release. As a child, Grace Parker endured taunts. Murderer's kid, parentless wild child. People whispered it was karma, called her a bad seed. Luckily, she was too young then to feel much beyond pain and hunger. When Grace was 5, her mother got out of prison and immediately moved them away from Greenfield Township. Her mother took any job she could find. Sanitation worker, waitress, dishwasher. She even did manual labor, usually reserved for men. Hauling bricks, carrying cement, washing high-rise windows. Once she'd saved enough, they moved from a tiny single room into a one-bedroom apartment in Maplewood Township, right next door to Ethan. She was 7 when she met Ethan, and so was he. They were both scrawny kids, clearly undernourished. But thankfully, one had his grandmother, and the other had her mother. Nourished by love, they finally started to fill out. They did everything together, walked to school, ate lunch, sat side by side in class doing their work. They even got bullied together. She, the girl whose mother was in prison and father was dead, effectively parentless in the bully's eyes, and he, the boy without a father. Other kids called them strays or trashcan kids. Whenever Ethan heard the taunts, he'd launch himself at the bullies, fighting furiously until they backed down, too scared to say another word. In junior high, teachers started lecturing about the perils of puppy love, and somehow, Ethan and Grace became the main focus of this unwanted attention. Grace got her first period in 7th grade. It happened at school, and she didn't have money for pads. To make matters worse, she bled through her pants. She sat frozen, squirming with embarrassment. Overwhelmed by shame, her eyes welled up, but she couldn't bring herself to ask anyone for help. Ethan noticed something was wrong. He got up, went straight to the school store, bought a pack of pads, and thoughtfully wrapped them in his school jacket before tossing it to her. In that moment, Ethan seemed like a knight in shining armor, bathed in a golden glow. They tried to keep the whole pad incident quiet, but word got out. Someone reported them for dating, and classmates started making crude jokes at Grace's expense. The teacher hauled them into the office, questioning each of them separately. Being a teenager, Grace was deeply hurt and mortified by the gossip. She started ignoring Ethan completely at school, hoping the rumors would die down if they weren't seen talking. Ethan, however, didn't understand. Like many boys his age, he wasn't attuned to the nuances of her feelings. He couldn't grasp the depth of her embarrassment and sensitivity. He kept calling her by her full name. Grace Parker, why are you ignoring me? Grace Parker, why didn't you find me at lunch? Wait up after school. Grace Parker. Grace Parker, I'm craving your oatmeal with bacon bits. Ethan had boundless energy and was determined to patch things up. He'd drag her out shopping and treat her snacks. He methodically ate his way down the entire food street near their school, figuring out which stalls were the best and remembering all of Grace's favorites. He'd give her little gifts too, a hair tie with crystal beads, a fluffy bunny plush keychain for her backpack. Gradually, they fell back into their old rhythm. The rumors didn't stop, but Ethan dealt with them the same way he always had, with his fists, just like back in elementary school. This time, however, his grandmother was called to the school. Ethan was forced to write a formal apology and read it aloud to the entire student body and staff during assembly on the sports field. Ethan, do not advocate violence. But when you're confronted by bullies, I urge you to raise your fists and fight back with all your might. Meeting violence with violence is the best way to deal with bullying. Victims have nothing to apologize for. Fighting back is my pride. If it happens again, you can bet I'll do the same thing. End of statement. When Ethan finished reading, he folded the paper into an airplane and launched it out over the heads of the students below. Who knows how many hearts that paper airplane flew straight into that day. In 8th grade, Grace's mom bought a small food cart and started selling late-night snacks, mostly corn dogs. Grace helped her mom after school, and Ethan always came along, setting up tables, clearing dishes, and taking out the trash. Ethan became something of a legend at school after reading his apology. Once word spread that he helped at the food cart after school, kids started showing up in droves to buy snacks. Business got better and better. Life was tiring, but filled with hope. Grace's mom dreamed of saving enough money to rent a small shop near the school. No more pushing the heavy cart every day, she said, and it would be more convenient for Grace to get to class. Then, in their sophomore year of high school, the truth, or rather, the rumor, about Grace's mother being a murderer started circulating at school. Their food cart was vandalized, pushed over, tables and chairs smashed. A group claiming to be relatives appeared, shouting for Grace and her mother to pay back debts. Life felt like sticky mud. Just when they thought they were getting somewhere stable, everything collapsed again. Her mother got sick and ended up in the hospital. Grace's grades slipped. There were sudden debts to deal with, the judgmental stares of their neighbors. It became painfully clear that fists couldn't solve everything. High school felt impossibly hard. Grace felt like a sea turtle encrusted with barnacles, each one adding more weight. Simple tasks for others required immense effort from her. She had to keep swimming relentlessly without pause just to make it through. So many times, she felt overwhelmed, ready to give up completely. But Ethan was always there, pulling her back from the brink. Without Ethan, she honestly might not have survived sophomore year. She and Ethan were childhood sweethearts, growing up side by side. They'd weathered the same storms, lived in the same world. They were cut from the same cloth. Falling in love was almost inevitable. The real challenge would be staying together. After high school graduation, it felt completely natural for them to officially become a couple. Ethan sent her a text. "Well, graduation's over. Guess it's finally okay for us to date, huh? After all those years people spent gossiping about us, it almost seems wrong not to be together. So, Grace Parker, want to give this college dating thing a shot? We applied to the same university." Without hesitation, she replied, "Okay." When Ethan heard Grace had met Richard Johnson right after graduation, he looked visibly stunned. Why didn't you ever tell me about that? How could she possibly tell him that his father, Richard Johnson, had insulted her, offered her money to leave Ethan? That Ethan was some wealthy heir and she, a poor girl struggling with debt, wasn't good enough for him? That his family had the multi-billion-dollar Johnson family trust and owned properties all over, while hers couldn't even afford to rent a small storefront and was reduced to pushing a food cart, hounded by creditors? How could she, smelling of cooking oil and cheap food, ever measure up? She had always believed they were inhabitants of the same small, struggling world. She thought they were both pitiful in their own ways. But now, someone had revealed the truth. Ethan wasn't like her at all. He'd been born with a silver spoon in his mouth, the heir to a fortune. A trendy supermarket in downtown Maplewood Township recently went bankrupt, reportedly losing hundreds of millions in just 1 year. Grace remembered feeling completely out of place the first time she went inside. She only found out later that the entire building belonged to the Johnson family. What ordinary people couldn't earn in several lifetimes, his family could lose in a single bad year. The chasm between their worlds was impossibly wide. How could she even think of dating Ethan? "Grace Parker, don't be afraid. I'll always be with you. We're the same. One without parents, one without a father. We were born small, fighting back against our smallness. We grew up eating simple food, so don't be afraid of being ordinary. But Ethan, we really are different. We're not from the same world. I never thought I'd end up so far away from you, like I could never catch up no matter how hard I chased." In all the years she'd known Ethan, he was mostly the one taking care of her. When she was down, he'd take her to Cedar Springs Amusement Park, to the aquatic park to see the dolphins, or out exploring new restaurants. And all she could give him in return was a bowl of homemade oatmeal with bacon bits. It was like two stray cats huddled together for warmth in winter. Then one day, one cat gets adopted, leaving the other alone, still scavenging by the trash cans. The stark contrast made Grace Parker feel insecure and inadequate. She even had the shameful thought, why did Ethan have to be rich? Why couldn't he be unlucky, just like her? Human nature is incredibly contradictory. You want the other person to do well, but at the same time, you hope they don't do too well. She wanted to drag Ethan down into the mud with her, but then she'd think that a vibrant young man like him deserved to hang in the sky like the moon, pure and flawless. Whenever these dark thoughts surfaced, Grace Parker would break down, slapping herself and cursing herself. Ethan is the best person to you. Why are you thinking such awful things about him? Later, she opened a blue book, and inside a sentence read, "Back then, I didn't yet understand how contradictory human nature was. I didn't know how much pretense lies within sincerity, how much baseness within nobility, or how much goodness within evil. Now I fully understand that pettiness and generosity, resentment and kindness, hatred and love can all coexist within the same heart." Her mother found out about her relationship with Ethan. She didn't object. She had watched Ethan grow up and knew his character well. She felt at ease in trusting her daughter to him. But when she learned about the Johnson family's circumstances, her mother fell silent for a long time. Then, frowning, she told Grace, "Grace, relationships between unequals rarely lead to happiness. If you truly love Ethan and can't imagine being without him, then you must strive to improve yourself to become his equal as much as possible. Otherwise, you'll always be constrained, you'll lose yourself, and things won't end well." She knew perfectly well how vast the gap between her and Ethan was. Sooner or later, he would return to inherit the Johnson family trust, with its $300 million fortune. The wealth disparity was enormous, a height she could never reach even with lifetimes of effort. If she had known about the Johnson family situation from the start, perhaps they never would have gotten together. Ethan also knew what happened later. She took a summer job, ended up on a production crew, and was unexpectedly noticed by the director. Through various connections, she met Lillian Bennett and signed with her talent agency. She stumbled into Hollywood and gradually grew to love acting. When it was time to apply for university, Lillian Bennett advised her to apply to a university. It would benefit her future career and make scheduling easier. She followed the advice, but she didn't tell Ethan. The 18-year-old Grace Parker hadn't experienced much of life. She was insecure and timid, wanting everything but daring to fight for nothing, curled up in her shell like a snail. She wanted to earn money to pay off debts, wanted her mother to have a better life, wanted to bridge the gap between her and Ethan, wanted to be seen as an equal by the Johnson family, to earn their approval, to be worthy of standing by his side. She set out aiming for a good ending, but deviated from the path right at the start, moving further and further away from her original goal. Waiting for the university acceptance letter felt like a death row inmate granted a temporary reprieve. Avoidance couldn't solve the fundamental problem. The gun aimed at her temple would eventually fire. She signed a 10-year contract, binding her to strictly follow Harper Enterprises' arrangements for those 10 years, including playing up a romance with her male co-star for publicity on her first film. Grace Parker said all this in a rush, her voice hoarse. "Later, I went looking for you, but by then, you were already dating Amelia Harper." Across from her, Ethan listened quietly, his face impassive, as if hearing someone else's story. Midway through, he even poured himself a cup of tea. When Grace Parker finished, he set down his teacup. The sound against the table was soft, yet somehow it made her heart pound violently. The restaurant was getting crowded, filled with the buzz of conversation, but to Grace Parker, it felt deathly silent. She heard Ethan speak. "After saying all that, are you trying to tell me you went into Hollywood for my sake? Why didn't you tell me when you changed your university application? Were you worried I'd stop you? Or did you think I'd give up my first choice and follow you to a different city?" Going to Rome University was something Ethan had decided on since he was young. It had the major he liked, and, crucially, it was close to home, so he could visit his grandmother on weekends. Even if Grace Parker had told him back then, he wouldn't have changed his plans to go elsewhere, nor would he have tried to stop her choice. People have mouths precisely to clear up misunderstandings. Grace Parker's pupils contracted, her eyes turning redder. She struggled to control her chaotic, crumbling emotions, try to explain, "Ethan, I was too young then. I was thinking too much about everything else and ignored how you felt. I thought if I became a famous actress, made money, I could close the gap between us." You thought? Who do you think you are?" Ethan cut her off sharply. "You completely missed the reason we broke up. You hid things from me, made decisions based on some self-sacrificing fantasy that you thought was for my own good, dismissing my thoughts. Essentially, you dismissed me. You decided my feelings didn't matter. Now you're a movie queen, famous and rich. You think the gap you perceived has shrunk, so you can just come back, and I'll happily get back together with you? Grace Parker, you're incredibly naive. Love isn't about comparison and calculation. Love defies comparison and calculation. There's a type of person who uses self-torment to create an illusion of devotion, placing themselves on a moral high ground in the relationship to gain a twisted sense of satisfaction and security. It's like when Ethan, just because Amelia Harper mentioned wanting his wonton soup, got up in the middle of the night to make it, then braved a snowstorm the next day to deliver it to Harper Tower. To her, a bowl of wonton soup was just a bowl of wonton soup. It couldn't possibly bear the weight of the profound affection he tried to load onto it. So, the essence of love lies in mutual attraction, in walking the same path with shared values, not in the dependent chase of a simp. He understood this now, but Grace Parker clearly still didn't. Ethan had nothing more to say about the past, but Grace Parker shouldn't lay the burden of her acting career on him. It was too heavy. He couldn't bear it. Grace Parker, do you have any idea what I was going through when you broke up with me back then? That was when my grandmother died. Ethan smiled bitterly. He'd thought, having lived this life once before, that mentioning the past would be easy, something he could just laugh off. He hadn't expected it to still hurt. But thinking of his grandmother, shuffling, hunched over, painstakingly carrying him home on her back step by step, his voice still caught. If it weren't for Grandma, he would have died long ago. She gave him a second chance at life. He remembered childhood naps, Grandma fanning him with a palm leaf fan, raising him with every spoonful of rice and piece of meat. Knowing he loved drumsticks, whenever she made chicken noodle soup, she'd put both legs in his bowl. Grandma held his hand, taking him to school. On rainy days, Grandma's umbrella always tilted towards him. The taller he grew, the more wrinkles appeared on Grandma's face. Whenever he had to write about family for school, he always wrote about Grandma. He wrote that he wanted to make a lot of money to take care of her when he grew up. Every Thanksgiving, Grandma would buy him a big wedding cake. He'd put candles on it and earnestly wish for his grandma's hair to turn darker, her wrinkles to lessen, for her to stay young forever, and to see his wedding ceremony. The wedding cake wishes didn't work. He had just started college, hadn't even had the chance to earn money to support her when Grandma passed away. Since then, the watermelon he ate never tasted like garlic anymore. And every year, he never found a coin in his pierogi again. No one saved both drumsticks for him, and no one waited by the door, hoping for his safe return. Her love was a debt he could never repay. Her kindness, a grace he could never return. Grandma used to say that when people die, they become stars in the sky. So no matter how lonely you are, you'll always have company. One night, he missed her so terribly that he stood on the rooftop of the Mayo Clinic, reaching out, trying to touch a star. There were so many stars, but which one was his grandma? A large part of why Ethan returned to the Johnson family back then was because of Grandma. When she was alive, she often told him stories of her and Grandpa's love, how they started the business together, how Richard Johnson built the Johnson Group from scratch with his own two hands. They gained wealth, but his health failed. That's why she always taught Ethan that health was the most important thing. But after returning to the Johnson family, he forgot her advice. He kept thinking that the Johnson Group was built by his grandparents, and he couldn't let it fall apart on his watch. So, he followed in his grandfather's footsteps, overworked himself, got stomach cancer, and died. If Grandma knew about this in the afterlife, who knows how worried she'd be. She had worked so hard to nurse her grandson back to health, only for him to turn back into that frail, 6-year-old boy the moment she was gone. Ethan, I didn't know so much happened back then, Grace Parker stammered. Breaking up with you wasn't what I wanted. I tried to explain, but you had already blocked and deleted me. By the time I got back to Maplewood Township, you had already moved. I couldn't find you. She explained desperately, like a death row inmate grasping at their last chance for survival. Perhaps remembering how the kind old woman would always stuff snacks in her pockets whenever they met, Grace Parker's eyes reddened, brimming with tears. Of course, she couldn't find him. He had already returned to the Johnson family by then. Ethan stared into Grace Parker's eyes for a long moment before speaking. I didn't know what happened to you, and you didn't know what I went through. So let's just call it even. The iced tea in the glass was finished. Ethan poured 2 glasses of water, stopping when they were about 8/10 full. He pushed the clean glass towards Grace Parker. Drinking too much cold water isn't good for you. Have some warm water. Grace Parker had sensitive teeth since she was young. She only drank water at room temperature. Iced drinks made her teeth ache. The low-sugar iced honey pomelo tea wasn't her favorite. It was his. You know your own situation best, Grace Parker. It's time to let go. Ethan stood up. I'm going to step out for some air. Take your time eating. The moment Ethan left, Grace Parker couldn't hold back her tears any longer. To hide it, She picked up her chopsticks and started stuffing the buffalo wings from the plate into her mouth. The fiery chili peppers stung her entire mouth, a burning pain searing her throat. She coughed as she swallowed, tears streaming down her face, mixing with the chili in her mouth, salty, spicy, astringent. She clutched a napkin, wiping her tears and nose, her face rubbed raw and red. Music drifted over from the bubble tea shop next door. The song lyrics floated on the air. In those fleeting years, how many times did we say goodbye, only to linger on? It's a shame, but who truly knows if love wasn't just a passionate debate after all? In those fleeting years, we rashly made promises too heavy to bear, left for someone else to fulfill. If the past is still worth longing for, don't be too quick to forgive and forget. Who's willing to just let go, with no ties left? We need to owe each other something, or what's left to remember. If we meet again without red eyes from crying, can we still blush like we used to? Like that beautiful lie we hastily etched back then, promising forever together. Grace Parker listened and cried, mechanically stuffing chili peppers in her mouth, not stopping even when her stomach started to hurt. She quickly finished more than half the large plate of peppers, the spice making tears stream down her face. As a public figure, her every move was scrutinized. She had to wear a mask, constantly maintain her image, and couldn't reveal too much emotion. Even something like sobbing uncontrollably had to be disguised with the help of chili peppers. Hearing her choked sobs, people nearby looked over. A staff member hurried over, concerned. "Ms. Parker, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Grace Parker choked out. "The peppers are just too spicy. They're making my eyes water. I'll be okay in a moment." Her lips were red and swollen from the spice. She propped her head up with her hand, her voice hoarse. "I'm really fine. You don't need to worry about me." Only after she insisted multiple times that she was fine did the staff member relax. "Ms. Parker, if you can't handle the spice, please don't force yourself. Your health is important. Don't make yourself sick." "I know." Grace Parker haphazardly wiped her tears. Her eyes stung and throbbed, her vision blurry. She remembered the day she broke up with Ethan. She was filming a crying scene. She started crying before the director even called action and couldn't stop for 20 minutes, even after he yelled cut. The entire production crew came over to comfort her. The director praised her professionalism, saying she was so immersed in the role she couldn't snap out of it. But the truth was, she hadn't been immersed in the role at all. Ethan was the person she liked most in the world. He was her youth, the goal she strived for. How could she bear to break up with him? Her tear-streaked face from eating the chili peppers drew a lot of attention. A fan recognized her and, after hesitating for a long time, finally mustered the courage to approach. "Grace, I've been a fan for 5 years. Could I please get your autograph?" Grace Parker didn't speak, just reached out for the paper and pen. As she signed, the fan started chatting, filling her in on recent events. "Grace, are you on a date with Ethan today?" Grace Parker's hand trembled. "Yes." The fan looked around. "I don't see him." Grace Parker's voice was very soft. "He finished eating and went out to buy something." The fan said indignantly, "Oh, I see. When will he be back?" "A friend of mine is his fan, and she feels so bad for him lately. He had such a rough past, you know? His mom was mentally ill and abused him, so badly he developed depression, and his dad didn't care either. What kind of parents are like that? Not only did they kick their own son out, but they spread rumors that he was unfilial and weak. Now they want to make William their godson and give the Johnson family trust that rightfully belongs to Ethan to an outsider. It's disgusting." The pen in her hand slipped and clattered onto the floor. Just as the fan bent down to pick it up, Grace Parker seized her arm. "What did you just say? Abused by his family until he developed depression? And the Johnson family taking him in? When did that happen?" Grace Parker's eyes were already red from crying. Now, widened in shock, the bloodshot veins were clearly visible. The fan jumped, startled by her reaction, then looked down at the hand gripping her arm, asking dazedly, "It's huge news, all over the Twitter trends." "You didn't know?" Then she remembered. "Oh, right. You can't use your phones while filming the show." The fan quickly recounted the recent online events for Grace Parker. Facing her idol, she struggled to contain her emotions, worried she wasn't explaining clearly enough. So she quickly pulled out her phone to show Grace the video of 110 people speaking out to clear Ethan's name. From their words, Grace Parker learned about Ethan's past. Some things she already knew, like the spirited middle school boy who'd confidently launched paper airplanes towards the horizon. He was the kind of boy who dazzled everyone during his school days, chivalrous, kind, and righteous, speaking up for the weak, fighting back against bullies. Facing a teacher's reprimand, He cleared his throat and declared loudly, "Teacher, if fighting back against bullying is wrong, then I'll never regret it." 18-year-old Ethan was the best kind of young man, but everything changed after he started college. He became withdrawn and taciturn, like a walking corpse. He hid away all his light, like a hedgehog that had lost its spines. A top comment was from someone claiming to be Ethan's university doctor. They said Ethan had collapsed several times at school, and examinations revealed his body covered in injuries. At the time, they assumed he'd gotten hurt fighting outside. Additionally, Ethan frequently picked up peppermint oil capsules and painkillers from the clinic. He likely had severe stomach problems. An anonymous psychologist also commented, saying Ethan had seen therapists multiple times and suffered from severe depression, PTSD, and avoidant personality traits. During episodes, he would fantasize about someone loving him. A former housemaid for the Johnson family said that at home, Ethan's mother, Margaret Johnson, didn't love him. She was described as a madwoman who only shrieked and roared at people, cursing Ethan with the sharpest, most vicious words, hitting him to vent her frustrations, and taking pleasure in mentally tormenting him. Ethan's arrival simply gave them a new outlet for their cruelty. As for Ethan's father, Richard Johnson, who only brought his son back after 11 years, it wasn't out of love. He watched coldly from the sidelines, using Ethan as a medicine to treat Margaret Johnson's mental illness. Once the medicine served its purpose, he discarded Ethan like trash. This was Ethan's life after returning to the Johnson family, despairing and oppressive, gradually turning the bright-eyed young man into someone scarred and broken, like a lonely, silent grave in the dead of night. The boy who had once saved her, yet no one had saved him. Back then, Grace Parker had thought Richard Johnson's appearance meant Ethan was going back to a better life. He was a rich young master from a family worth $100 million. People are born into different circumstances. Some live unremarkable lives, others excel. They say all roads lead to Rome, but some people are born in Rome. Ethan and she were not from the same world. He would return to being a wealthy heir, enjoying the best resources and education, never worrying about finding a job after graduation because he'd inherit the family business and assets with a fortune of $5 billion. Look at that failed trendy supermarket in downtown Maplewood Township. An ordinary person couldn't afford to buy it in several lifetimes. Even renting a single storefront, there is a struggle. But the Johnsons own several such supermarkets in Rosewood City alone, not to mention their other business ventures and investments. It was the kind of life countless people dreamed of. So why did Ethan end up like this after going back? He had become the unlucky soul she'd pitted, unloved and uncared for. He had money, yet seemed to have lost everything else. Grace Parker stared at the plates of red chili peppers before her, her eyelashes trembling. She closed her eyes, and a tear escaped, tracing a path down her cheek. So Ethan really couldn't eat spicy food anymore. His stomach problems were real. It was an excuse to distance himself, to draw a line between them. And she, knowing nothing, had assumed he was still the same, still loved fiery dishes, and ordered several plates at once. She'd even felt smug, thinking she was the one who understood Ethan best, when in reality, she was the one who understood him the least. All these years, focused on her company contracts, on winning awards, she had been immersed in her own world, thinking time had stood still, that things were just like before. She had missed 5 years of Ethan's life. 5 years during which Ethan was tormented by his family until he was barely recognizable, finding it difficult just to survive. What right did she have to think that just because Ethan's engagement with Amelia Harper was broken, they could simply mend their broken mirror? Grace Parker, in this world, no matter how you live, people will gossip. Don't take their words to heart. Don't listen to them. Just be yourself. Eat what you want. See the people you want to see. Do what you love. As long as you're happy and have a clear conscience, that's all that matters. I really like your mom. Her cooking is delicious. She speaks gently. She's strong and independent. I refuse to believe she's a murderer. If anyone spreads rumors, I'll help you fight back. Grace Parker, are you a punching bag? No, you're a little crybaby. Grace Parker, stop crying. There's a new place near school serving spicy Cajun pasta. Let's go try it. I hear it's really hot. Save your tears for when the spice makes you cry. Tears streamed down her face uncontrollably, more and more. She covered her mouth, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Her body swayed, and she nearly collapsed. The fan quickly steadied her, confused by Grace Parker's intense reaction. Grace Parker handed the phone back, her voice thick with tears and hoarse. Thank you for telling me all this. Thank you. The fan looked anxious, asking worriedly, Grace, are you okay? I'm fine. Grace Parker forced her lips into a smile that looked worse than tears. She handed the signed photo to the fan. The fan took the photo and left, saying, "I'll treasure this. Keep going, Grace. We're all waiting for you to come back to acting. Your fans will always love you." Ethan could have kept loving her too, couldn't he? The only thing she could do now to make amends was. Thinking this, she glanced at the Twitch livestream. Meanwhile, Ethan was completely unaware of what had just happened in the restaurant. After leaving, he wandered around the nearby area. There are not only places to eat, but also various jewelry shops with affordable prices, perfect for students. Not far away was a mall where you could ice skate, watch movies, or do crafts. All in all, very suitable for dates. A cameraman followed Ethan. Less than 20 minutes after Ethan had stepped out, the cameraman received a call. "Ethan, when are you heading back?" "Heading back now." He figured enough time had passed. Grace Parker should have finished eating and calmed down by now. The cameraman spoke coaxingly. "Grace Parker isn't doing too well. She started crying after you left. If you could comfort her a bit when you get back. We are filming a show, after all, and we're only halfway through today. Let's not mess it up." "Okay, sure." Ethan agreed readily. It wasn't easy for the crew. He'd cooperate. When Ethan returned, the table was empty. Where had Grace Parker gone? Only a staff member was sitting there, scrolling through their phone. Ethan walked over. "Where's Grace Parker?" "Ms. Parker took the others out. So they were going to buy a few things and run some errands." "Did she say when she'd be back?" "No, but it probably won't take long, right? If worst comes to worst, we can always call her." "Mr. Johnson, were you planning on looking for her?" "Since she has things to do, I'll just wait here." Ethan sat down. The restaurant was mostly empty now anyway, so he wasn't bothering anyone. He poured himself a cup of tea, his gaze drifting unintentionally across the table. Of the 4 Cajun dishes they'd ordered earlier, even the chili peppers were mostly gone. Ethan teased the staff member. "You guys can really handle your spice." Grace Parker ate the peppers, the staffer replied. "They made her cry." Leaning closer, he lowered his voice. "I was sitting a bit far from Ms. Parker at the time. I saw a fan approach her for an autograph. Then they pulled out a phone and said something to her. A little while later, she just started crying out loud. Really heartbroken. When she gets back, you should comfort her. I mean, you two are on a date today, after all." It was lucky they were just eating and not streaming on Twitch then. Seeing Grace Parker cry like that, who knows what netizens would have thought. Ethan's expression froze. He looked at the leftover peppers on the table. Grace Parker rarely ate spicy food. There used to be a place near their high school that sold spicy Cajun pasta. He always ordered the spiciest level, while Grace could only handle mild. When the heat got to her, tears would stream down her face as she wiped her nose. She hated eating spicy food in front of him, saying it made her look awful and she was afraid he'd laugh. All that felt like a lifetime ago to him now. A man in his 50s recalling those days felt like sipping plain water, bland, tasteless. Yet, on reflection, a subtle sweetness lingered. Ethan lifted his teacup, gazing out at the street. Pairs of students walked past the restaurant, clutching bubble tea, bags slung over their shoulders, shopping bags in hand, laughing and talking. Truly the best age. Meanwhile, Grace Parker had found a quiet, deserted spot. She instructed the camera crew to start the Twitch livestream. After explaining to the director what she planned to do, they handed her a phone. She opened her Twitch chat, watching the live comments scroll by. "Grace Parker, finally! My darling, my treasure, do you know how much I missed you during the few minutes you were eating? Grace Parker, why are your eyes so red? Did the chili peppers make you cry? How's the date with Ethan going? I'm really rooting for you two now. Childhood sweethearts, stock rising. Our magma ship is winning big. Is it just me, or does Grace Parker look like she's watching us? Why is this stream setting so empty? So quiet. Is Grace Parker holding her phone and reading our live comments?" Grace Parker looked up, facing the camera. "Yes, I'm reading your live comments. This is actually my first time looking at my own Twitch chat. I didn't expect there to be so many viewers and fans. Grace Parker, can you tell us about your relationship with Ethan? And what happened between you two back then? I saw stuff about Ethan on Twitter recently. Not sure if it's true or not, but I feel kind of bad for him." Grace Parker's eyes immediately caught that comment. Thinking back to the video she'd watched at noon, her eyes began to burn again. She fought to maintain her composure, forcing a smile for the camera. "That's exactly what I wanted to talk to you all about today. What happened between Ethan and me. Ethan and I met when we were 7. The Ethan back then was nothing like he is now. Just a scrawny little thing with yellowish hair. Though, I wasn't much better. When we stood together, adults used to tease us, saying we looked like 2 skinny monkeys, malnourished. Ethan was raised by his grandmother. Until he turned 18, he never saw his parents. For the longest time, I actually thought they were dead. How else could they ignore him for 11 years? Ethan and I were childhood sweethearts. He helped me. No, that's not right. He saved me many times. If it weren't for him, perhaps the Grace Parker you see today wouldn't exist. That's why I hope those of you who love me can love him too. Mentioning the past inevitably brought a nostalgic look to Grace Parker's face. In that moment, she seemed gentle, like a summer breeze soothing restless hearts. A faint smile touched her lips as she recounted Ethan protecting her, fighting for her, taking her to Six Flags to stop her crying. The audience in the Twitch chat was drawn into the innocent, hazy romance of their youth. Passing folded notes, the occasional line drawn down the middle of a desk, a rubber band snapped on a wrist, a name hidden inside an eraser, secretly checking their zodiac compatibility, calculating their destiny using the number of strokes in their names. Him erasing the blackboard for her, the two of them always being the last ones left to take out the trash together, sharing earbuds in the library to listen to the same song. An accidental brush of hands, hesitant explorations, gazes meeting only to quickly look away, yet always searching for his figure in a crowd. Loving to watch him play basketball, wanting to be closest to him, feeling utterly content watching him finish the oatmeal with bacon bits she made. A sudden power outage, and instead of checking the fuse box, he pulled her close protectively. The walk home on dark nights, where he'd tell jokes to chase away her fear. He even remembered her time of the month, nagging her not to drink cold water. It was so good to have him in her youth. My family ran a small food stall, she continued. He'd even help us set up at night. You have no idea how handsome Ethan was back then. He was the most popular guy in our school. So many girls liked him, running off to watch him play basketball. He's still handsome now, of course. Fond memories are always cherished. People say that what you constantly dwell on will eventually respond, but the reality is often wanting without seeing, loving without obtaining. A red-faced meeting followed by a red-eyed parting. So romantic. I never knew Ethan was so gentle. I want to cry. How could his parents be so heartless to such a good person? Now I finally get why Grace Parker fell for Ethan. If it were me, I'd fall for him too. Meeting someone so wonderful during your youth. Ethan deserved that. So, did Grace Parker and Ethan actually date? Grace Parker took a long, deep breath and let it out slowly. She blinked, trying to clear her dry eyes and hold back the tears. Yes, she confirmed. Ethan and I dated for a while, but we broke up. Because of me, I let him down. After Thanksgiving, we promised each other we'd apply to the same university. But when it came time to submit the applications, I changed mine, and I kept it from him the whole time. He only found out when the acceptance letters arrived. He didn't blame me, though. He didn't break up with me then. Why did you change your application? Why break your promise? What happened? Wait, let me calculate the timing. After Thanksgiving, wasn't that when you started acting? Sacrificing love for a career, that's realistic, I guess, but unfair to the other person. Grace Parker didn't look at the live comments. She continued speaking to the camera. A lot of bad things happened around that time. Ethan's father approached me, told me to break up with him. At 18, I was weak, cowardly, didn't dare fight for us. I wasn't confident enough in our relationship. The intense disparity I felt pushed me towards the perceived shortcut of acting. But there are no real shortcuts in this world. For every gain, there's a loss. And I lost him. I was the one who initiated the breakup. For my career, I abandoned him a second time. And that period was the absolute hardest time in Ethan's life. Just like it said on Twitter, Ethan was abused by his parents starting at age 5. He wasn't taken in by his grandmother until he was 6. After his grandmother died, he was finally taken back home at 19. But what awaited him wasn't parental love. It was even worse abuse than before. They smeared him, spread rumors about him for their own gain, ignored his cries for help, trampled on his dignity. People like them, they don't deserve to be called parents. Just then her phone buzzed. It was a call from her agent, Lillian Bennett. Grace Parker hung up immediately. Moments later, a barrage of text messages popped up. Grace Parker, are you trying to destroy your career? What does Ethan's situation have to do with you? Why do you need to speak up for him? Ethan has powerful backers helping him clear his name and fight his legal battles. Why are you sticking your nose into this? Can't you give me a break? You're driving me crazy. I have so much on my plate every day. Can't you think about me for once? Do you have any idea how much trouble those things you said in the Twitch chat will cause us? The company has poured everything into building your career all these years, and this is how you repay me. Do you think Ethan will thank you for all this? He might even resent you for jumping in after the fact. You're not impressing anyone with this stunt. You're only fooling yourself. Is it really worth throwing everything away for a man? Let me tell you, you haven't just lost your career, you won't get Ethan back either. You'll end up with nothing. Happy now. The agent relentlessly bombarded Grace Parker with texts. The messages radiated her fury and desperation. It was like waking up from a nap to find the world had ended. Anyone would break down. As an actress with over 50 million followers, even the smallest mistake gets blown completely out of proportion. Grace Parker didn't offer excuses. She openly admitted she was the one at fault in their past relationship. Now that she was successful, she wanted to win Ethan back. But life isn't that easy. You can't always have it all. Where were you when Ethan needed you most? Consequently, many people online weren't buying her story. Grace Parker's follower count was plummeting. In just a short while, she'd lost millions, and these were active followers. Some condemned her, while others spoke up in her defense. At 18, Grace Parker had been young and easily influenced. Without the confidence or leverage to fight for what she wanted, she'd allowed others to drive them apart. Now, risking her entire future, she was bravely speaking out for Ethan, perhaps making amends for her past mistakes. Some hoped Ethan and Grace Parker could reconnect through some adrenaline bonding on the show, while others believed that what's past is past, proving they weren't meant to be. Even if they didn't get back together, they could still be friends. Ultimately, the real villain was Richard Johnson. His actions were deplorable. Perhaps, under different circumstances, at a different time, they would have been perfect for each other. On the live stream, Grace Parker's expression remained composed, though her eyes were redder than before. She continued speaking to the camera. I want to talk to you all in the Twitch chat today, mainly to tell you that Ethan, he's a really, really good person. I often find myself thinking, if only I could go back to being 18. I would tell my 18-year-old self, please, you have to trust Ethan. Stay by his side, be there for him, don't let him get hurt. From elementary school through high school, he protected you. He showed you what it felt like to be loved. You need to love him bravely. Don't stop talking to him just because of what some outsider says. 18-year-old Grace, you have to protect Ethan. Look after him. Take care of his health. Don't let him develop stomach problems. He loves exploring new places to eat, trying all sorts of delicious food. Tears welled up in the corners of Grace Parker's eyes as she spoke. Finally, I apologize for my arrogance, for thinking I knew best. Ethan, I'm sorry. And Grace clutched at her chest, her voice choked with emotion. I love you. At that moment, her heart felt like it was being twisted into knots. Grace Parker fought back the pain, sobbing uncontrollably. The camera cut away, then back to show Grace Parker collapsed on the floor. She clutched her chest as if she couldn't breathe, her body curled up, trembling violently, revealing the depth of her pain. She cried silently, the only sound a faint sniffle from her nose. Suddenly, she understood. The greatest pain wasn't heading toward a tragic end, but knowing in advance just how terrible the ending would be, yet being powerless to change it, forced to simply watch it unfold. Everything Grace Parker said in the Twitch chat immediately started trending on Twitter. Fans who had thought Grace Parker was solely career-driven were stunned to realize their idol was actually ruled by her heart. Fans questioned, if she entered Hollywood and made money just to be worthy of Ethan, why was she the one who initiated the breakup? It's been years since the breakup. What couldn't she let go of? Furthermore, back when she debuted, Grace Parker had cultivated a single image, which now felt like a deception to her fans. Their current dissatisfaction was understandable. In the coffee shop, Victoria Harper added 4 sugar cubes to her coffee. Still finding it bitter, she tossed in 2 more. As she stirred her coffee, Logan Prescott, sitting opposite her, was talking, his mouth opening and closing. Victoria Harper nodded along intermittently, appearing attentive, but her mind had already drifted far away. She was thinking about Ethan, wondering how his date with Grace Parker was going, and whether he was thinking about her. Victoria Harper pulled a pocket watch from her pocket and checked it. It wasn't even 1 p.m. yet. Why was time moving so slowly? When would it finally be 5 p.m. so she could go home? Would Ethan call her early? She had been confident before leaving, but after so much time had passed, a sliver of anxiety crept in. Just then, a waiter brought over a bouquet of roses, a surprise Logan Prescott had arranged beforehand. The red petals briefly caught Victoria Harper's attention. Snapping back to the present, she looked at the roses being offered to her. Flowers for a beauty. These are for you. Do you like them? Logan Prescott certainly knew how to handle a date. He was young, knew how to plan things, understood romance, spoke sweet words, and secretly prepared roses to please a girl. Unfortunately for him, he was trying to please Victoria Harper. Victoria Harper glanced at them, then offered a polite smile as she refused. I prefer carnations to roses. Aren't carnations usually for mothers? What did Victoria Harper mean? Although Logan knew Victoria Harper had initially been interested in Ethan, he still clung to a sliver of hope. Compared to Ethan, he wasn't bad himself. What if Victoria eventually grew to like him? Seeing Logan Prescott hadn't taken the flowers back, Victoria Harper lifted a finger and pushed the bouquet away, a hint of disdain in the gesture. Logan awkwardly retracted the flowers. I thought all girls liked roses. Depends on the person. Implied. Depend on who's giving them. Victoria Harper took a sip of her coffee. Don't send me roses. I wouldn't want anyone to get the wrong idea. She stopped just short of saying Ethan's name. Logan Prescott's mouth twitched. If the cameras weren't right on them, he would have asked her point blank if she and Ethan were already dating. Just then, a girl at the next table took out her phone and started playing a video. Victoria Harper, bored, glanced over. Her eyesight was sharp. She clearly saw Grace Parker in the video. Her previously nonchalant expression suddenly turned serious. She strained her ears and caught the exact moment Grace Parker said, "Ethan, I love you." Victoria Harper narrowed her eyes slightly, a chill emanating from her gaze. She held out her hand. "Give me my phone." A nearby staff member didn't hesitate, quickly finding Victoria Harper's phone and placing it in her hand. Across from him, Logan Prescott was completely stunned. The production crew had strict rules against looking at phones during filming unless it was an emergency call, after which the phone had to be immediately handed back to staff for safekeeping. The director's concern was that sneak peeks might affect their performance on camera. Despite this, contestants still secretly brought their phones, though they only ever glanced at them covertly, never daring to pull them out so openly. Yet, Victoria Harper merely extended her hand, and a staff member respectfully handed her phone over. Logan Prescott stole a glance at the camera, noticing the cameraman had already turned the lens away. Once Victoria had the phone, she started scrolling. There was no need to specifically search for news about Grace Parker. Opening Twitter revealed screen after screen of trending topics about her and Ethan Johnson. The video was long, and she couldn't be bothered to watch it. From the comments and hashtags, she could piece together the gist of it. She had known about Grace Parker and Ethan Johnson for a long time. They were childhood sweethearts, each other's first love. A teenage romance, innocent and unforgettable. Besides Ethan's grandmother, Grace Parker knew him best. Grace Parker's profession as an acclaimed actress meant she had vast public appeal and a massive fan base. Anything she said carried more weight than the people Victoria had hired. But precisely because of her career, she couldn't speak out carelessly. It involved her team, her company, and countless vested interests. One wrong move could lead to ruin. Now, the initial effects were becoming visible. Some fans felt deceived, not only unfollowing, but also flooding her Twitter comments with abuse. Fortunately, Grace Parker's dedicated solo fanbase was large and powerful enough. They quickly organized to control the comments and block haters. Her PR team was also sharp. To divert public attention, they once again dredged up dirt on the Johnson family, beating that dead horse. The influence of an A-list actress shouldn't be underestimated. Currently, the Johnson Group's comment sections were completely overrun by these fans, spewing enough vitriol that the company had to disable DMs and comments. But it didn't end there. Fans targeted Johnson Group's subsidiary businesses, like their trendy supermarkets. They placed large online orders only to return them en masse. They couldn't orchestrate major disruptions, but they could create a swarm of minor problems. Enough small cuts could bleed even a large company dry, especially since the Johnson family had been on a downward trend in recent years. After the online assault came the offline tactics. At this rate, those supermarkets wouldn't last a month. At 24, Grace Parker was successful and wealthy. If Richard Johnson approached her now, she could confidently tell him, "I am worthy of Ethan Johnson." She could fight back, creating a crisis for the Johnson family. A few words from her could directly impact their market value and bring endless trouble. The 24-year-old Grace Parker had achieved what her 18-year-old self dreamed of, but couldn't accomplish. Yet, the 24-year-old couldn't go back. Victoria Harper hadn't taken Grace Parker seriously before. An ex from 5 years ago, hardly a threat. But now she had to admit, as a rival, Grace was mentioning the barely qualified. Did Grace really think this could win back Ethan Johnson's heart? Impossible. Ethan had completely moved on from her back when he was with Amelia Harper. Victoria finished the last of her coffee. She handed the phone back to the staff member behind her, then stood up. "If there's nothing much happening this afternoon, let's just head back early. The Twitch chat is dead anyway, and the production crew has enough footage from the morning to edit the main show. But I arranged other activities for our date this afternoon. Are you sure you want to go back?" Victoria shot him a cold look. Logan Prescott stopped mid-sentence, feeling a sudden chill, a hint of killing intent. He knew it. He and Victoria Harper just didn't mesh well. Their vibes were completely off. On his last date with Grace Parker, even though she clearly disliked him, she'd at least put on a front, maintaining some semblance of decorum for his sake. Victoria Harper couldn't even be bothered to pretend, disdaining even the idea of lying to smooth things over. Logan forced an awkward smile. "Do you have work this afternoon? I saw you were on your phone for quite a while." Victoria, clearly not in a good mood, replied, "No, I just find this whole outing tedious and want to go back and rest." Okay. Victoria possessed an undeniable, intimidating presence, an oppressive aura that left Logan unable to argue, only comply. On the way back, Victoria sat in the back seat while Logan drove. He inexplicably felt like a chauffeur driving his boss. Leaning against the window, Victoria listened through her earbuds as her assistant delivered a work report. The latest news from this morning was that Benjamin Harper was raising capital to buy the Westbrook District plot of land. The Westbrook District project was assessed as high risk with significant underlying problems. It looked incredibly valuable at first glance, but according to upcoming policy changes, it would soon become a worthless piece of dead land. Only the uppermost elite knew this inside information, very few people. Benjamin Harper's status wasn't high enough to grant him access to that circle, so he remained unaware. Benjamin not only wanted the project, but was also preparing to bid for the land itself, terrified someone else would snatch it up first. To achieve this, he had liquidated substantial assets, banking everything on making a killing from this venture. It seemed Victoria's lengthy investment of time and effort in subtly guiding him through planted insiders hadn't been in vain. As for Richard Johnson, her private investigator had sent a text message. Richard had recently been hospitalized. His condition seemed serious, but the cause was unknown. He had apparently been feeling slightly better today, but after glancing at his phone, he'd fainted again. Regarding Margaret Johnson, she was confined to her home with no news leaking out. William had spent just one day at the Mayo Clinic with Richard before leaving. He was currently heading this way, along with Amelia Harper. Victoria recalled the director mentioning last week that 2 guest stars would be joining the show. Turns out it was those 2. Judging by their departure time, they would arrive tonight. The director hadn't breathed a word, clearly intending it as a surprise. It was indeed surprising. She even felt a little eager to meet this niece of hers. Meanwhile, it took Grace Parker nearly 30 minutes to compose herself. She splashed cold water on her face, wiped off her makeup, and dabbed concealer under her reddened eyes to appear less devastated. She turned to the staff member assigned to her. "Please don't tell Ethan Johnson about what happened during my Twitch stream just now." The staff member, though puzzled, respected her request. However, with the situation blowing up so publicly, even if they kept quiet, Ethan was bound to hear about it from someone else. At that moment, Ethan Johnson was still oblivious. After waiting for Grace Parker at the restaurant for 30 minutes, he went to the bubble tea shop next door, ordered a hot drink, and continued waiting inside, enjoying the air conditioning. As he waited, he noticed people occasionally staring at him, but he didn't think much of it. Just as the staff member was debating whether to call and hurry Grace along, she returned. The redness on her skin could be masked by powder, but the telltale red in her eyes couldn't be hidden. It was obvious she had been crying. "You've been waiting long, haven't you? Let's head to the next place." Grace wore a smile, appearing calm as if nothing had happened. She led the way nonchalantly, chattering as they walked. "I saw a lot of shops selling handcrafted dolls over there. They look quite interesting. We could do some crafts this afternoon, or maybe go see a movie at the mall. Later, we can grab something to eat nearby. Let's skip the spicy food tonight. It's not good for the stomach." Ethan, who had rehearsed a whole speech of comforting words, found himself utterly speechless. An odd tension settled over them on the walk. It felt like 2 people fully aware of a painful truth, desperately pretending everything was fine just to maintain a fragile surface harmony. "Let's skip dinner. I want to head back early this afternoon." Grace Parker was silent for a moment. She didn't ask questions, just said, "Okay." Passing by a plushie store, Grace Parker suddenly stopped. She looked at a bunny plushie on the shelf and tugged at Ethan's sleeve. "Ethan, could you get me that bunny?" "Which bunny?" Ethan turned to look. It was a lop-eared bunny wearing a little JK uniform. It did look a bit like Grace Parker. Of course, it was clear Grace Parker really liked the bunny. She held it tightly, unable to put it down, a faint smile playing on her lips. Ethan watched her for a moment before asking, "Do all girls like bunny plushies like this?" "I don't know about all girls, but I love it. And it's from you." The shop owner chimed in. "Girls usually can't resist cute things. A plushie this size is perfect for cuddling at night, or just putting on a nightstand as decoration." Ethan glanced at the price. 2 or 300 yuan, not expensive. Ethan seemed suddenly interested. He went further into the store, looking at the various plushies displayed on the wall, his gaze finally settling on a white and pink fox. "Excuse me, could you get that fox down for me?" "Sure." The fox was on the highest shelf, easily missed by most customers. The owner used a long pole like one for hanging laundry to retrieve it. The little fox wobbled precariously in midair, about to fall, but Ethan reached out and caught it smoothly. Standing nearby, Grace Parker watched Ethan hold the fox. An image of Victoria Harper involuntarily surfaced in her mind. Like the fox, Victoria had a birthmark near the corner of her eye. Ethan was also staring at the birthmark, even touching it gently with his finger. Grace Parker tightened her grip on her bunny. Satisfied, Ethan put the fox down. "I'll take both of these." "How much?" After a discount and rounding down, the 2 plushies came to 500 yuan. Ethan still had $1,000 in cash remaining. Holding the bag, Ethan asked Grace Parker, "Is there anywhere else you want to go?" Grace Parker shook her head. "Wherever you want to go is fine. I'll follow you." Ethan headed straight for the shopping district he'd checked out earlier. He budgeted about 4,000 yuan for a necklace, then went to a cupcake bakery to decorate a cake. Grace Parker followed him quietly the entire time. She had already guessed who the gifts were for, so she didn't torture herself by asking. She squeezed the bunny's ear, thinking to herself that she was already quite content with today. While Ethan was decorating the cake, Grace's manager called again. Grace answered, "Lillian, I'm sorry." Her manager, Lillian Bennett, had discovered her and given her a chance. If Lillian hadn't fought for resources for her these past few years, Grace wouldn't be where she was today. Streaming on Twitch without discussing it first, Grace knew she owed Lillian an apology. Lillian swallowed the scolding words on the tip of her tongue, sighing with a hint of frustrated disappointment. "Don't bother finishing the shoot for this variety show. Pack up and come back." "Okay, I understand." Lillian sounded surprised. "I tell you to come back, and you just agree? Can you really bear to leave?" Grace Parker leaned against a wall, gazing at Ethan from afar. He looked completely focused, decorating the cake, drawing a crowd. Passers-by formed a circle about 4 feet away, taking pictures with their phones. Ethan never lacked admirers. Among all the people who liked him, she was just one, and perhaps the least qualified. Grace Parker lowered her eyes. "What does it matter if I can't bear to leave? He doesn't like me anyway." Lillian said, "What if you told him I forced you to break up with him back then? Does having a difficult reason make it any less of a betrayal?" Grace laughed, not bitterly, but with a sense of release. "Besides, he probably already has someone he likes now." Ethan was decorating a mango millefeuille. One look and Grace knew it wasn't for her. She was allergic to mangoes. There's a saying online that's quite true. All unhappiness stems from comparison. Maybe never seeing each other again was the best reconciliation for her and Ethan, the best ending for them. No need to clear up misunderstandings. They just needed to live their separate lives well. After hanging up with Grace Parker, Lillian sat in silence for a long time. She pressed her throbbing temples and made herself a cup of coffee. To the agency, celebrities were more like products. Their packaging was their public persona. The better the packaging, the more people would like them, and the higher the price they could fetch. Lillian Bennett first encountered Grace Parker on the set of a period drama. Grace was playing a young beggar, an extra with no lines. Her small figure was lost in the crowd, easily overlooked. But the moment the director yelled, "Action!" your eyes were drawn to her. Even as part of the background, without even a single close-up, she poured her heart into playing the role. She portrayed the beggar's suffering vividly. Her face was smudged with dirt, but it couldn't hide her beautiful eyes. It was the first time Lillian had witnessed such powerful acting through eyes alone. The numbness of a beggar born into hardship, the flicker of hope rekindled only to be extinguished, the loss of the will to live. Her eyes seemed to darken as if filled with ink, losing all light. Gold shines wherever it is. Lillian Bennett decided right then and there to sign Grace Parker. Signing Grace Parker was easy. Lillian gave her a week to think it over, and she agreed. Grace Parker had good features. She was naturally beautiful, born to be in this business. The day they signed a contract, Grace told her bluntly that she wanted to become famous, earn a lot of money, and change her life. Good. Lillian liked ambitious people. Lillian gave Grace Parker favorable terms in the contract. For her very first role, she cast her as the female lead in a school idol drama. The character's persona, appearance, and personality seemed tailor-made for her. To make her famous, Lillian Bennett devised a complete star-making plan. Beyond acting, it involved post-production marketing and hype, including the essential shipping of on-screen couples. Grace Parker initially refused to participate in the couple hype. When asked why, it turned out she had a boyfriend. Lillian explained the pros and cons to Grace. Promoting the CP was just work. Once the drama finished airing, they would work on purifying the fan base, converting couple fans into solo fans. To gain a foothold in the entertainment industry, you needed a strong fan base. Don't you want to change your life quickly? This is your chance. She coaxed Grace Parker into going along with the plan. Grace Parker's first leading role became a huge hit. Her CP fans outnumbered her individual fans. Through the couple hype, she landed numerous commercial appearances and endorsements, rising from obscurity to become a third-tier actress. It was precisely because of this breakthrough that Grace Parker gained some negotiating power. Her only demand was to stop the manufactured romance rumors. After weighing the options, the agency agreed, but on one condition. Any drama she starred in had to achieve S+ ratings. If it didn't, she would have to comply with the agency's arrangements. At 19, Grace Parker was still naive, believing she and her boyfriend could stay together forever and eventually get married. Lillian Bennett, having seen all sorts of people in the entertainment industry, knew one thing for sure. Love meant jack shit. Young people like Grace Parker rarely withstood the tests of human nature in this business. No man can tolerate his girlfriend getting cozy with other men, unless he doesn't love her. Grace Parker's relationship had already started to change back when she was doing publicity stunts, pretending to be a couple with her male co-star for her first drama. Their love was like an apple just starting to rot. You think only a small part is bad, but the decay has already spread throughout. Lillian Bennett had tried to persuade Grace Parker to break up with him and focus on her career. What did Grace say back then? Oh, right. She said the whole reason she wanted to get into Hollywood was for her boyfriend. But a place like Hollywood, a veritable dyeing vat that stains everything it touches, has no room for pure love. Sure enough, after her second series aired, Grace Parker shot to fame overnight, becoming a popular rising star, just as Lillian had predicted the first time she saw her. Grace was one of those people seemingly blessed by fate, destined for stardom. If she didn't make it big, who would? But trouble followed success. For instance, Grace was snapped by paparazzi during a secret meeting with her boyfriend. How could she, whose public image was built around being a childhood sweetheart, possibly be dating someone? Only a year into her debut, Grace hadn't yet secured her footing in the film industry. She needed her fan support, and for fans, an idol dating is the ultimate betrayal, a career collapse. So, the choice was stark. Announce the relationship or break up with her boyfriend. Announcing it would inevitably lead to a massive loss of fans, canceled endorsement deals, and likely destroy any chance she had of ever reaching the A-list. There were too many examples of stars whose careers imploded after revealing a relationship. The film industry has no shortage of newcomers. If you disappear today, someone else will take your place tomorrow. Gradually, even those who like you will forget you. Announcing the relationship wouldn't just affect her career, it would impact her partner too. Grace Parker's boyfriend was an ordinary person, not in the industry. Once he was exposed, he would face endless trouble, being constantly watched, verbally abused, maybe even put in danger. Returning to a quiet, normal life would become impossible. Grace Parker, do you want him to face danger? Lillian had pressed her. As long as you're in Hollywood, he'll be known only because of you, subjected to constant scrutiny. Your fans will attack him. Your anti-fans will curse him, maybe even curse his family. Do you really want to see him go through that? Not only that, your career will suffer. You had the chance to change your life, to stand at the very top, but now you've ruined it. If you insist on staying with him, the company will have to back someone else. Your resources will be given away. It was both reality and coercion. Some paparazzi lacked any ethical boundaries. To find out who Grace Parker's boyfriend was, they scoured the area around her home and even went to her old school asking questions. Just as Ethan's identity was about to be completely exposed, Grace finally chose to break up. She couldn't even bring herself to call Ethan, afraid she'd start crying and be unable to speak, afraid she'd immediately regret it, afraid she was making the wrong choice, afraid of hurting Ethan. She retreated into herself again, like a frightened bunny curled up in its shell. During that time, some extremist netizens, believing the paparazzi's stories, sent her terrifying pictures at night and cursed her lover to die a horrible death. Seeing her finally break up, Lillian Bennett quickly threw her into another production crew, a closed set cut off from the outside world, to prevent her from regretting it and trying to reconcile with her ex-boyfriend. During that period, Grace punished herself by taking one role after another, achieving a seamless 365-day schedule of filming, working year-round without a break. She refused professional stunt doubles for action scenes, insisting on doing them herself, leaving her body covered in bruises. People on set praised her professionalism, but only Lillian Bennett knew she was using the physical pain as a form of atonement. If her body hurt, maybe her heart wouldn't, maybe she wouldn't think about Ethan. Filming action scenes, she once coughed up blood after a mistake during a fight sequence. She injured her waist during wire work. In an explosion scene, she fractured her forearm and nearly died. Why was Grace Parker pushing herself so hard? From the moment she lost Ethan, the light went out of her world. Everything felt empty, as if life had lost its meaning. This wasn't self-discipline. She was trying to self-destruct. Lillian Bennett finally couldn't watch anymore. She drafted a new contract and had Grace sign it. The agreement stipulated that if Grace achieved a grand slam, winning all the major acting awards, and became a top-tier actress, the company would fully support her being with Ethan and wouldn't interfere with her relationship. At the time, Lillian thought that no matter how talented Grace was, she was still a newcomer. The leap from idol dramas to serious films was vast, like comparing heaven and earth. Winning a Grand Slam was even harder. Countless actors transitioned to film only to languish in obscurity for decades without making a name for themselves. The Best Actress title is incredibly difficult to win, let alone sweeping all the major awards. Lillian figured Grace would probably be around 30 by the time she achieved that, an age where nobody cared much if she dated. By then, she might have even forgotten who Ethan was. Grace Parker held the contract as if clutching the last straw. Lillian kept a tight rein on her, forbidding her from contacting Ethan. To cure her love brain, Lillian kept her constantly busy with filming or shooting commercials, leaving no time for rest, let alone chasing after Ethan. During this time, Lillian also casually mentioned to Grace that Ethan had already moved on. He had a new girlfriend, a beautiful and wealthy heiress who was a perfect match for him in terms of looks and status. Knowing Grace, Lillian was confident she wouldn't try to break up someone else's relationship. Unexpectedly, Grace replied, "They're just dating, not married. I'll wait for the day they break up." She stubbornly believed that once the misunderstanding was cleared up, she and Ethan could get back together. Earlier this year, at the age of 24, Grace Parker achieved the Grand Slam, becoming a major award-winning actress 6 years earlier than Lillian had anticipated. Just as Grace was preparing to find Ethan, she received news of his engagement. In that instant, Grace felt as if she were 19 again, reliving the day she broke up with him. Lillian, terrified Grace might do something drastic, stayed by her side constantly. From 18 to 24, Grace had undergone a complete transformation. She had become strong, confident, mature, and steady. Lillian remembered the day Grace signed the agreement, asking her, "If I follow you, can I change my life? I want a lot of money. I want fame and status. I want people to respect me." Lillian had stood up, taken her hand, and said, "Of course you can." Over the years, Grace grew rapidly, from a weed into a towering tree, never letting down the fans who loved her. On her Twitch stream today, Grace admitted she was the one who initiated the breakup, but didn't share these painful details. So now, everyone says Grace Parker betrayed Ethan, that she let him down. The first sword strike after reaching shore is aimed at the beloved. They say, sacrificing love on the altar of success. The bitter taste of coffee lingered in Lillian's mouth. She stood up, opened the window, and looked at the clouds drifting across the sky. Taking out her phone, she posted the contract she and Grace had signed years ago online. Then, she began editing, adding the details, recounting everything Grace had endured over the years. Meeting the right person at the wrong time is destined for tragedy. There are no romantic reunions, only memories where even the simple act of holding hands or an embrace becomes a painful gesture. Ethan glanced at the time, distractedly, while frosting the cake. It was already 3:58 p.m. He quickly asked a staff member for his phone and immediately called Victoria Harper upon receiving it. "I thought you were having too much fun on your date to remember me," Victoria teased. "I didn't forget. In fact, because of what Victoria had said that morning, he hadn't stopped thinking about it." "When are you coming home?" Victoria asked. Hearing the word home, Ethan's heart warmed. "I'll be home by 5:30 at the latest." Victoria suddenly went quiet, and Ethan worried he'd upset her. "I was preparing a surprise, so it took a little longer." "Where are you now?" What he really wanted to ask was, "Are you still on your date with Logan Prescott?" "Me." Victoria drew out the word, initially planning to torment him a bit longer, but she changed her mind. "I'm waiting for you at home. Come back soon." Everyone else called it Oak Ridge Retreat, but only Victoria liked to call it home. Ethan smiled faintly. It felt like a long time since he'd been home. After hanging up, Ethan hurried to finish the cake, completing it just before 4:30 p.m. He hadn't asked for help the entire time, even doing the packaging himself. "I didn't know you could bake, and so well, too," Grace Parker remarked, walking over with a glass of water. "Want some?" "Not right now." Ethan just wanted to pack it up quickly and head back. Without looking up, he added, "There's a strawberry cake in the fridge. It's for you, Grace." Grace's voice trembled slightly. "You made it specifically for me. You kept me company all afternoon. Consider it a thank you gift. Just a simple token of appreciation, nothing more." Grace understood the unspoken message. "Thank you," she said, opening the fridge. The cake was small, just the right size for one person. She took a bite. Though it tasted sweet and sour, a trace of bitterness lingered on her tongue. The sweet fragrance of cake filled the air. Ethan lowered his gaze, calmly putting the finishing touches on the packaging. The overhead lights cast a soft glow on his face. Grace felt she could sit there watching him forever without ever growing tired. Ethan added a decoration made of cotton candy and checked that the box was secure. He lifted it. "We can go back now." Grace finished her cake. A bodyguard drove them back. Ethan opened a rear door but held the cake box in his lap instead of putting it in the trunk, worried it might get jostled. Grace got him beside him. "Is the cake for Victoria Harper? Is it her birthday today?" Ethan wasn't surprised Grace had guessed. They'd been together all day, and he hadn't tried to hide it. "She doesn't want others to know." "I won't tell anyone," Grace promised. Silence fell, turning the atmosphere awkward. Grace looked out the window. "Ethan, do you like Victoria Harper?" Reborn into this life, Ethan actually viewed love with a degree of detachment. He simply felt it shouldn't be rushed or compromised. Repeating the mistakes of his past life by settling for just anyone was out of the question. Initially, he'd joined the show intending to just go through the motions, be a background character, collect the payment, and leave. But now his perspective had shifted slightly. Let nature take its course, he thought. If I meet the right person, I'll be brave. If not, spending a lifetime alone isn't impossible either. Grace couldn't help but caution him. "I always feel like there's more to Victoria Harper than meets the eye. I'd rather get to know her myself and rely on what others say. To feel, to see, to listen, to explore." Slowly uncovering a person from the outside and held its own kind of pleasure. Victoria Harper certainly wasn't simple. To Ethan, she was like a mysterious treasure waiting to be unearthed. "I just want to remind you not to fall too fast. Be careful. It's not like she's going to hurt me. Why should I be careful around her?" Realizing his tone was a bit harsh, Ethan added, "Thank you for the concern. I know what I'm doing." It was normal for Grace to be wary of Victoria, given how little time she'd known her. He was different. Counting his past life, he'd known Victoria for 20 or 30 years. Seeing Ethan defend Victoria so staunchly stung Grace, but she could only console herself. There's a psychological concept called the desensitization phase, she thought. Once you get used to it, it won't hurt anymore. The other couples had already returned from their dates. Ethan and Grace were the last ones back. Grace got out of the car, holding a bunny plush. "Is that fox plush you bought for Victoria Harper? Do you need me to give it to her?" Grace figured since she shared a room with Victoria, she could pass it along if Ethan wanted to avoid drawing attention. "No need," Ethan declined immediately. "She'd probably be happier if I gave it to her myself." The gift was important, but so was the act of giving it. Ethan decided to leave the cake and the fox plush in the car for now. The temperature had dropped recently, hovering around 23 degrees Celsius, 73 degrees Fahrenheit, in the evening, so the cake wouldn't spoil. Entering Oak Ridge Retreat, the first person Ethan saw was Victoria Harper. Strangely, she wasn't wearing the red dress from the morning. "You're back." Ethan raised his wrist, showing her his watch. "I'm not late. It's exactly 5:20. Victoria had been sitting on a wicker chair. Seeing Ethan, she stood up and gave him a thorough, appraising look from head to toe. Her gaze felt so direct, it was almost like stripping him bare. She walked right up to him. "Where's my surprise?" "It's in the car." Ethan paused. "There are too many people around now. I'll give it to you tonight." Truthfully, she desired Ethan himself more than any material object. Having him gift-wrapped and tossed on her bed would be the biggest surprise. "Where tonight?" "In your room." The question hung suggestively in the air, but Ethan seemed oblivious to the flirtation. "My room isn't that interesting," he replied earnestly. "I'll take you somewhere outside." "Who says your room isn't interesting? I like it very much, especially your bed. It looks very comfortable, but outside is fine too. I'll follow your lead." She hadn't seen him all day and felt like teasing him until he blushed. "I'll wait for you to knock on my door tonight." As Victoria finished speaking, the corner of her eye curved slightly, and the birthmark there seemed to flush a faint pink. Victoria was like an ancient fox spirit, One careless step, and you could fall into a trap she'd carefully laid. She hadn't been like this at the beginning, Ethan mused. He wanted to correct her, to tell her not to say things that could be so easily misunderstood. Just as he was about to speak, Olivia Bennett ran over, clutching a piece of pottery. "Ethan," she exclaimed, "where did you and Grace Parker go today? Why are you back so late?" "Nowhere special." Olivia held up a ceramic pot the color of mud. "Look, what do you think?" Before Ethan could answer, she rushed on. "Christopher and I made this pot. It's not worse than the one you and Victoria Harper made, right? Not only did we do crafts, but we also went to the aquatic park, saw the animal show, and there was lots of great food nearby. We ate and walked around and took tons of Polaroids. I'll show you later." Ethan quickly processed her words. Wasn't that exactly where he and Victoria had gone on their first date, doing the very same things? Olivia Bennett kept talking while secretly sneaking glances at Ethan's face. Was he paying attention? Was he upset? Did he feel anything seeing her go on a date with another man? "Christopher's really amazing," she gushed. "He's great at taking pictures. He even crouched down to find the best angle, made my legs look long and slim. He's so thoughtful and patient, too. I only mentioned something once, and he remembered it. And also..." Ethan listened attentively, without any sign of impatience. Olivia's enthusiasm instantly felt like it had been doused in ice water. Her open mouth slowly shut. After a moment of silence, she asked, "Ethan, what do you think of Christopher? Why are you asking me that?" Olivia clutched the pottery workshop in her arms and mumbled awkwardly, "I mean, guys know the guy's best, right? I haven't spent as much time with him as you have. You just went on a date with him today. Don't you have a sense of what he's like? If you really want to get to know him, you should feel it for yourself. What others say might not be true, and it's not fair to him either. I'm not trying to get to know him. I just want to see how you..." Olivia's face turned red as she almost blurted out the truth. Flustered, she shot Ethan a glare. So much for adrenaline bonding. It was useless. This blockhead Ethan was actually advising her to connect with Christopher sincerely? Was he really that eager to see her with someone else? After the anger came disappointment, like a balloon suddenly deflating. The Olivia who had been full of energy a moment ago now felt tight-chested and suffocated. Nearby, Victoria Harper watched with a smirk, looking like she was enjoying the drama. There was even a trace of disdain at the corner of her lips, as if she had seen right through Olivia's thoughts. Olivia suddenly felt ridiculous, like a clown under a spotlight. She hugged the pottery workshop tighter, her arms trembling like she might crush the clay inside. "It's nothing. I just think Christopher's great, better than you. Smarter, more capable, more romantic. He understands women better, too." Victoria Harper let out a laugh. "Well, if you think he's so great, why don't you just be with him? Our whole production crew is about DM matches anyway. If you pick Christopher, no one's going to fight you for him. We'll all support you. Who I end up with is none of your business." Victoria tilted her head toward Ethan and said with mock surprise, "You're right. It's none of our business. Isn't that right, Ethan? Or not my. Just one word, but a world of difference." Ethan gave a simple yeah, and Olivia's face instantly went pale. A wave of hurt surged up out of nowhere, her nose stung, and her eyes turned red. Olivia had always been quick to cry. She liked throwing jabs, but couldn't win a real argument. Her words were shallow, while others' comebacks always hit the mark. Seeing Ethan side with Victoria Harper without hesitation, Olivia tried her best to hold back her tears. Why was he defending Victoria? Didn't her identity bother him at all? She was Amelia Harper's aunt, for crying out loud. Olivia gave Victoria a weak glare. Crying now would be humiliating. No matter what, she couldn't lose her edge. If she was going to compete with Victoria for a man, she couldn't let her look down on her. Victoria couldn't be bothered. In her eyes, Olivia was just a kid, not worth the energy. Amelia Harper was already on her way. Olivia liked to think of herself as Amelia's best friend. Would she still dare chase after Ethan once Amelia arrived? Victoria knew her niece well. Anything that had once passed through her hands, she wouldn't let go of easily, not even to destroy it. Anyone who dared challenge her would face her wrath. That night, Grace Parker and Logan Prescott were in charge of dinner. Grace's specialty was porridge, and she was making a millet and yam one, good for the stomach. While the porridge simmered, a few side dishes were being prepared. With Ethan and Victoria joining in, dinner came together quickly. They'd been filming the show for 20 days now, but there still weren't fixed seats at the table. Every meal turned into a silent battlefield. Viewers loved these chaotic dynamics. Always something to comment on. Every time Ethan sat down, it was like Tang Monk entering the Spider Demon's cave. Victoria Harper always managed to sit next to Ethan. She didn't believe in playing it cool. She went straight for what she wanted, even calling Ethan over to sit beside her. Most of the time, it was Grace Parker and Olivia Bennett quietly fighting for position. If they couldn't sit next to Ethan, they'd at least try to sit across from him. But tonight, something changed. Christopher sat down and called out, "Olivia, come sit next to me." Olivia glanced at Ethan first. Seeing no reaction, she walked over and took the seat. Christopher smiled and served her a bowl of porridge. The six of them chatted as they ate, mostly about that day's DM matches, where they'd gone, what they did. Ethan was the one who got asked the most questions. As he answered, he sensed that some people were giving him strange looks. Some were amused, some sympathetic. It felt like something had happened that he didn't know about. But Ethan didn't press it. Christopher chimed in, "We went to Aquatic Park today. You know, the place you went with Victoria last time? It's honestly perfect for DM matches. Olivia had a great time. If I'd known, I wouldn't have switched last time." Logan Prescott wasn't thrilled to keep talking about the DM matches. Today he was either playing chauffeur or son. Not a fun day. It was becoming obvious to him that this whole show was built around Ethan. Victoria Harper and Grace Parker were clearly here for him. And as for Olivia Bennett, she looked at Ethan no less than 50 times during dinner. Christopher might think he was doing great, but didn't he realize he was stuck in Ethan's shadow? The second round of DM matches was planned by the female contestants. Out of all the places Olivia could have picked, she chose the one Ethan had already been to Aquatic Park. After dinner, some people washed dishes, others went to freshen up. Once the table was cleared, Victoria Harper washed her hands and returned to her room. She turned on the lights and saw a bunny plush sitting on Grace Parker's bed. Spotting the stuffed bunny on the bed, the one that bore a striking resemblance to Grace Parker, Victoria Harper's expression hardened, her brow furrowing. Just then, Grace Parker returned from washing the dishes. As soon as she entered the room, she saw Victoria Harper looking at the bunny on her bed. Grace picked up the stuffed animal. "Ethan bought this for me," she said. "Doesn't it look just like me?" Even though Grace recognized she no longer had any claim, facing Victoria Harper brought out her competitive streak. She refused to concede defeat. How about you just let go? Ethan was the man she had loved for over a decade. She'd shared so many of her firsts with him. Even after 5 years apart, she couldn't forget him, clinging to memories to survive the agonizing days. The thought of the man she loved holding someone else someday, of another woman being the one beside him at night. The heartache was indescribable. It seemed even an award-winning actress couldn't mask her true feelings off-screen. Victoria Harper wanted nothing more than to shove Grace in front of a mirror and force her to see the bitter envy burning in her eyes. Victoria Harper looked away, approaching Grace with a smile curving her lips. "Then tell me, did he give this to you willingly? Because if not, it's just charity. Personally, I wouldn't want something like that." Grace Parker's already pale face seemed to drain of all color. She clutched the bunny tighter, as if seeking warmth from the plush toy. "You're right," Grace admitted. "I asked him for it, but I don't think that makes it worthless." Grace placed the bunny back on the bed and began sorting through her belongings. Victoria Harper watched her packing her suitcase. "What are you doing?" she asked. Grace crouched on the floor, folding clothes. "I'm packing my things. I'm leaving." "You're quitting the show?" "The agency has other plans for me." Victoria Harper thought about the day's Twitter trends. Grace's supposed clarification had certainly added fuel to the fire surrounding the Johnson family drama, but it had backfired, scorching Grace herself in the process. Grace was famous, and the resulting backlash was severe. Netizens dug up old incidents, latching onto them and blowing trivial matters completely out of proportion. So, Victoria Harper concluded it wasn't Grace's decision to leave, but her agency pulling her out. They wanted her to lie low for a while, wait for the storm to blow over before letting her back into the public eye. Victoria Harper. Grace stood up, her gaze serious as she looked directly at Victoria. "I know there's more to you than meets the eye. You love Ethan, and I have no right to stand in your way. But please, I'm begging you, don't hurt him. Don't give up on him. Love him a little more than anyone else would, and take good care of him." "I love him no less than you do," Victoria retorted. "Anything you think you can do for him, I've already done, and probably done better. I know about your past with Ethan. You broke up 5 years ago. You were the one who left him. You gave up on him then, and now you're back? Let me ask you something. Do you even know the difference between obsession and love?" Grace seemed momentarily lost, a pained smile twisting her lips, looking worse than if she'd cried. How many people confused love with obsession? You couldn't have him because he was never truly yours to begin with. You couldn't let go because you simply couldn't accept it. She kept remembering the Ethan of the past, ignoring the man he had become. Wasn't that a form of obsession itself? Perhaps love inspires growth, while obsession demands you change for the other person. The more she had tried to change for him, the deeper her fixation had become. Grace asked, "Victoria Harper, have you always looked down on me?" "It's not that I look down on you," Victoria replied coolly. "It's that I've never even considered you worth noticing. Your only reason for being here is to get back together with Ethan. But mending a broken mirror implies one of three things. Either it was never truly broken, or there was never a mirror in the first place, or it was never whole to begin with. Which of those do you think fits your situation?" Victoria sat in her chair, hand resting casually on the armrest, tilting her head slightly, looking every bit the imperious queen. "My impression of you wasn't great before, I admit. You've been an actress for so long. You seem to have forgotten that real life doesn't follow a script. You're too arrogant, thinking you can control everything. Take this online mob attacking Ethan, for example. I refuse to believe you only found out today. What were you thinking over the past couple of weeks? Weighing the pros and cons? Trying to have your cake and eat it too? You should know you can't have it both ways. The more you grasp for, the more you'll ultimately lose." Grace countered. "And what exactly did you do for him?" Victoria looked exasperated, raising an eyebrow. "Why don't you guess why nobody online dares to spread rumors about Ethan anymore?" Faced with true power, problems that seemed insurmountable to others were trivial matters to her. This was the first time Victoria had openly displayed her capabilities in front of Grace, and she saw exactly the shocked expression she had expected. Grace murmured, "So it was you." Her manager had texted her repeatedly, warning her to stay out of it, saying that Ethan had a powerful backer handling the clarifications and legal issues. Grace had run through a list of potential benefactors, but Victoria Harper had never once crossed her mind. How formidable was this woman? If this was true, how could Grace possibly compete with her? "Anything you can do for him, I can also do," Victoria stated calmly. "But the things I can do, I doubt you're capable of them." Victoria rose and approached Grace gracefully. "You're Ethan's friend, so that makes you my friend too," she said, her tone surprisingly magnanimous. "And as a friend, I promise you, I will treat Ethan very well." Simply put, Victoria thought, whether I tolerate her presence depends entirely on how she defines herself now. Friend or rival. If Grace could accept reality, then maybe when she and Ethan got married, Grace could come to the wedding. Maybe even visit once a year for dinner. But that was the limit. Victoria wasn't known for her generosity in these matters. Victoria was making it crystal clear Grace couldn't win. There was no chance of reconciliation with Ethan. Under the force of Victoria's presence, Grace instinctively took a small step back. "Victoria Harper," Grace asked, her voice strained, "if you were in my shoes, could you really let go this easily?" "Don't be ridiculous. I could never be you," Victoria scoffed. "If I had managed to hold on to him, I would have clung to him for dear life. Not even death could make me let go." For Victoria, all strategic calculations flew out the window when it came to Ethan. He was her only choice, her absolute priority, provided she got the chance to be with him. "I understand why you can't let him go," Victoria said, almost sympathetically. "Treasures are always coveted, after all." She patted Grace's shoulder like a knowing older sister. "Don't worry, I'll let you watch us. Keep watching, and eventually you'll get over him. Think of it as exposure therapy." Words felt like cement in Grace's throat, hardening and spreading through her veins until her whole body felt stiff. After a long, heavy silence, she finally managed to speak. "Fine," she choked out. "I'll be watching." In that moment, the two adversaries reached a strange kind of understanding. Reflecting on it, Grace realized her feelings toward Victoria were less jealousy and more raw envy. Envy for her freedom, her power to act without constraint, to do exactly as she pleased. She had lost. By clinging to memories of an 18-year-old Ethan, she had already proven herself unworthy of the man he was now. Compared to Victoria Harper, she didn't stand a chance. At 10 p.m., when everyone else had gone back to their rooms to sleep, Ethan knocked on Victoria Harper's door. But it was Grace Parker who opened it. Ethan looked taken aback. "Where's Victoria Harper?" He had arranged this time with Victoria earlier and had expected her to be waiting right by the door for his knock. "She's changing inside. The women's rooms had small powder rooms." "Then I'll wait out here for her." "Come on in. The mosquitoes are bad out here." Grace Parker pulled Ethan straight into the room. "The cameras in here are off already. Make yourself comfortable. Victoria will be out soon." Ethan didn't look around, just sat on a stool, lost in thought. Grace Parker asked, "Where are you planning on taking Victoria?" "Just for a walk around outside." "Did you bring a flashlight?" "Mosquito repellent?" she asked. Ethan answered each question. "Brought that too. There are a lot of bugs out there. Repellent might not be enough. You should probably bring some bug spray." Ethan said, "I prepared that as well." Ethan was thorough, having already considered everything others might think of, and even more. Grace Parker fell silent. The room was so quiet they could hear Victoria changing inside the powder room. Grace Parker suddenly said, "Victoria Harper. She's actually pretty decent. Better than me." Grace Parker really was too self-righteous, forcing what she thought was best onto Ethan. Her idea of love was completely different from what Ethan needed. Ethan had been abandoned by his parents before. He was terrified of being abandoned again. Just like the saying goes, "I long for someone to love me violently, undyingly, to understand that love is as strong as death, and to always stand by my side." Victoria Harper's reckless, all-consuming way of loving was exactly what Ethan craved. As for herself, she wouldn't make any more excuses. Betrayal was betrayal, no matter when, where, or why. Ethan was surprised. What could have possibly changed Grace Parker's opinion of Victoria? Just that afternoon, she had warned him that Victoria wasn't simple, telling him to be careful not to fall for her. Ethan subconsciously blurted out, "Thanks," then quickly realized Grace was praising Victoria. Why was he saying thanks? Just then, the powder room door opened, and Victoria Harper emerged. She was wearing the red dress from that morning, her long hair swept up with an ornamental hairpin. With no other jewelry, just simply put together, she was stunningly beautiful. For a moment, Ethan had to admit he was captivated. "Let's go." Ethan stood up, still saying goodbye to Grace. "We'll head out then. Grace Parker, be careful out there." Victoria Harper followed Ethan. As she closed the door, she winked at Grace Parker, giving her a meaningful smile. Ethan and Victoria were gone. It was time for her to get ready to leave, too. She hadn't brought much with her, so packing was quick. The already sparse room, now, seemed even emptier. Grace Parker picked up her phone and called her agent. "Lillian, I've finished packing. I can leave any time. When can you arrange for someone to pick me up?" Her agent hadn't wanted her on this show in the first place and had urged her several times to leave. Knowing Grace was finally willing, Lillian would probably arrange a pickup that same night. Lillian Bennett seemed to sigh, exasperated. "Actually, I just got word that you need to stay and finish filming the show." "Word from who?" "Can't say. Just keep filming. With how things are, won't this affect the company?" "Why didn't you think about that before?" "Anyway, the boss approved it. Just focus on filming. Someone's covering for you. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. I've been in meetings all day. I'm exhausted. I need to sleep." Lillian Bennett yawned over the phone, her voice hoarse. Grace Parker felt a pang of guilt. "Lillian, thank you. The call ended abruptly. Staring at the dark screen of her phone, Grace Parker stood frozen. She didn't have to go back? She could stay until the end? How could this be? Her agent hadn't said anything like this earlier today. Not much time had passed. Grace Parker suddenly remembered what Victoria Harper had said. "Don't worry. I'll make sure you get a good look. Watch enough, and you'll get over it." Ethan first led Victoria Harper to his car and handed her the stuffed fox that was inside. Victoria Harper hugged it immediately, examining the fox in her arms by the flashlight's beam. One look, and she could tell it was bought from the same shop as Grace Parker's bunny. Don't tell me he bought it for her as an afterthought when he bought Grace's? Victoria Harper wasn't pleased and voiced her thoughts. "Did you buy the bunny first or the fox?" Ethan answered honestly, "The bunny first. But I saw this fox and thought it looked a lot like you, so I bought it too." "What does it look like me?" Ethan leaned closer, pointing to the beauty mark near the fox's eye. "Right here, just like yours." It wasn't just the looks. Victoria's personality was as cunning and changeable as a fox's. Victoria, who had been slightly annoyed, instantly felt her anger dissipate. He saw a random stuffed animal and thought of her. Didn't that prove she was on his mind? Victoria Harper asked, "What's that you're carrying?" Ethan was holding a cake in a black bag, hidden by the darkness, so Victoria couldn't make out what it was. "You can open it and see for yourself when we get there." "Nice." She was growing more and more excited about the surprise to come. Victoria Harper was full of curiosity. "Where are you taking me?" "Just follow me." Ethan held the flashlight, and Victoria Harper followed closely beside him. She had been here so long, but this was her first time going out at night. Victoria Harper didn't like going out at night. She hated the dark. But as long as Ethan was beside her, all her dislikes could turn into likes. "Ethan, are we going to sneak off into the woods?" Ethan nearly tripped over his own feet. After steadying himself, he looked helplessly at Victoria. "You're a girl. You shouldn't keep saying things that could be misunderstood like that. It's not good." Victoria feigned an innocent, eager look. "Is sneaking off into the woods a bad phrase? What does it mean? I'm really curious, Mr. Johnson. Could you explain its meaning to me? I like to learn." Ethan, compared to her past life, Victoria was so different now. He didn't even know how to have a normal conversation with her anymore. Victoria Harper gently tugged at his sleeve. Slow down, don't walk so fast. I have night blindness. Her vision was impaired at night, even with the flashlight. Her Dr. Murphy had told her it wasn't actually night blindness, but a form of post-traumatic stress disorder. Hearing this, Ethan didn't turn around but reached back, unerringly grasping Victoria Harper's wrist. I'll lead you. Don't be afraid. Victoria Harper looked down at Ethan's hand on her wrist, her eyes curving into a smile, just like the little fox she held. Unfortunately, Ethan couldn't see it. She wondered if Ethan felt her racing heart when he held her wrist. Victoria Harper focused entirely on following Ethan's steps, treading on their shadows, completely unaware of where they were, until finally, he stopped. We're here. Look. Victoria Harper looked up. Fireflies. So many fireflies. Victoria then realized Ethan had brought her to the nearby Moonlight Creek. Close to the water's edge, Ethan took a wooden stick and rustled the grass, sending fireflies fluttering into the air. While Victoria watched the fireflies, Ethan watched her. He passed by here once and spotted female fireflies, guessing they'd be active at night. When he heard Victoria mention that morning how Logan planned to take her to see fireflies, this spot had immediately come to mind. Ethan pretended to ask casually, So, where did you and Logan go today? Victoria found a rock to sit on, propping her chin on her hand as she looked up at him. We didn't go to Six Flags, so no Ferris wheel. We just walked around the nearby shopping district, then grabbed coffee at some random place. Logan got me a bouquet of roses, but I didn't accept it. Victoria recounted everything from start to finish, as if pledging her loyalty. Anything else you want to ask? He didn't really have anything else to ask, but he was a little curious about the red dress she was wearing. You were wearing this dress this morning. Why did you suddenly change out of it when you got back? Victoria patted the stone beside her. Come sit down, I'll tell you. The two stones were very close, making physical contact unavoidable once he sat down. Victoria looked at him sideways, slowly leaning closer, her chin nuzzling against the fabric on his shoulder. Whether it was the red dress this morning or the red dress tonight, I wore them both just for you. That's why I changed as soon as you left this morning. A tingling sensation spread through his ear, and Ethan couldn't help but tense his neck. He quickly changed the subject, placing the bag he was holding in front of Victoria. Open your gift. Hold this for me. Victoria handed the bunny she was holding to Ethan. She crouched down and opened the bag. Cake. Yeah, I made mango millefeuille. He remembered Victoria loved mango in his past life. You know how to bake? It was truly an unexpected surprise, and Ethan had coincidentally made her favorite, mango millefeuille. It wasn't hard. Victoria opened the box, touching a switch that suddenly illuminated fairy lights around the cake. Ethan inserted the candles, celebrating Victoria's 27th birthday. Victoria closed her eyes, clasped her hands together, and made a wish, the flickering candlelight washing over her face. Ethan asked, Cake first? Victoria shook her head. I want to take a picture first with my phone. She adjusted the brightness on her phone and handed it to Ethan. The scenery was so beautiful it didn't need editing or filters. Any shot would turn out perfectly. Victoria sat amidst the fireflies, the candlelit cake beside her, clutching a pink bunny plush. She looked up and smiled, the night breeze gently caressing the stray hairs around her face, her eyes misty like water, reflecting countless stars. Ethan crouched down, found a good angle with the phone, and quickly snapped a photo. Got it. Hold on. Ethan stood up and walked towards her. There seems to be something on you. What? Victoria thought it was a bug and raised her hand to brush herself off. Don't move, Ethan called out as he reached towards her. Victoria froze, watching nervously as Ethan approached. The only sound was the rustling whisper of the wind through the treetops. Ethan's fingertips brushed against the little bunny in her arms. She lowered her head and, in the dim light, saw Ethan pull something out from within the plush. Ethan held it up. A necklace dangled in midair. His eyes held a smile, his voice extremely gentle. For you, it was a delicate chain meant to rest on the collarbone, adorned with only a single ruby pendant. Simple styles like this were foolproof and easy to pair with outfits. Victoria's eyes lit up. She looked from a necklace in Ethan's hand back to Ethan himself. Did you buy this today? Yeah. Do you like it? It was a gold necklace. Gold was never cheap. Based on market prices of $50 to $60 per gram, plus craftsmanship, this necklace likely cost several thousand. To the truly wealthy, a few thousand was like a few hundred, insignificant. Victoria had seen her share of extravagant gifts, ranging from millions to tens of millions. Once materially satisfied, people start seeking emotional connection. The value of a gift lies not in its price tag, but in the sincerity poured into it. Ethan had spent the entire day completing tasks, exchanging his points for $1,000 cash. He had used that $1,000 to buy her the most precious gift he could afford. He probably had almost nothing left on him today. Victoria took the necklace from Ethan. "It's beautiful, I love it. I feel like it matches my dress perfectly. Can you help me put it on?" A necklace like this is too cheap for Victoria. She deserves better, Ethan thought silently as he took the necklace back. After the recording ends, I have to buy her a truly fine necklace. Victoria felt the warmth radiating from behind her as Ethan fastened the necklace. His fingers brushed against her skin unintentionally, making her heart skip a beat. The desire to hold on to Ethan, to not let him go, deepened within her. The fireflies drifted upwards, seeming to merge with the starry expanse above. The moonlight was brighter than any flashlight, casting a pale silver glow on Ethan. He seemed like the moon, like her moon. Saying anything now felt like it would break the mood, so it was better left unsaid. Mosquitoes were abundant at night, and even repellent wasn't foolproof. Ethan had brought bug spray, but it had a strong smell. It would kill the mosquitoes, but the fireflies would die too. Ethan took off his jacket and draped it over Victoria's shoulders, covering her arms. "Victoria, I'm not cold." Ethan explained, "It's to block the mosquitoes." "If it's blocking mosquitoes for me, what about you?" Victoria stared at his exposed arms. She had no idea what blood type Ethan was, but he was a mosquito magnet. Then again, rumor had it mosquitoes preferred sweeter blood. Victoria's dark eyes deepened as she looked at Ethan's thin lips, suddenly overcome with the urge to taste them and see if they were really that sweet. Ethan, completely unaware of Victoria's hidden thoughts, awkwardly held out his bare arms. "This way, the mosquitoes won't bite you, because they'll all be drawn to me instead." Victoria lowered her head, hiding a chuckle. She adjusted the jacket around her. Ethan looked slim, but his clothes were roomier than expected. The single jacket enveloped her completely. Victoria sat crouched on the ground, her hands gently clutching the fabric, which still held Ethan's lingering scent and warmth, making her feel as if he were holding her. She tilted her head slightly, nuzzling her face against the collar, sniffing it gently, like a little fox cub in the wild. "It's almost dawn. Should we head back?" Ethan asked. Victoria nodded. "Okay, let's go back." Her legs were a bit stiff from sitting so long. Seeing Ethan offer his hand, Victoria reached out and took it, using his leverage to stand up, nearly stumbling into his arms in the process. Ethan steadied her, then carefully cleaned up their trash. Holding the bag and flashlight in one hand, he took Victoria's hand with the other. They strolled back to Oak Ridge Retreat, only to find 3 cars parked outside the main courtyard. Ethan glanced at the license plates and immediately recognized one as the Harper limousine. Soon after, he saw its owner inside, Amelia Harper. Amelia and William arrived together. The director had arranged for them to rest overnight at the Rosewood Grand Hotel and come the next day, making it easier for the crew to film. But Amelia wouldn't hear of it, insisting on coming straight through the night. As a result, they arrived at 11:57 p.m., just 3 minutes before midnight. Amelia was exhausted too. She had come with a mission, to persuade Ethan to drop his lawsuit, and, while she was at it, broker a connection between Harper Enterprises and the Yan Group. Honestly, she wasn't confident she could succeed and had been anxious the entire trip, but she was good at convincing herself, recalling the 3 years she'd spent with Ethan. He had loved her deeply and had always done as she asked. She'd never asked him for anything before. This time, if she humbled herself, spoke to him gently and reasonably, maybe Ethan would agree. After all, she had been the one by his side during his toughest year. If it hadn't been for her, Ethan would have completely lost it. In the swaying car, Amelia closed her eyes to rest. She drifted in and out of dreams, fragmented images of Ethan appearing, leaving a heavy weight in her chest. Upon reaching the Oak Ridge Retreat filming location, the driver pulled over. "Ms. Harper, we're here." Amelia's eyes snapped open. That lingering sense of empty longing wouldn't leave her. She rubbed her eyes and patted her throbbing head. The thought of seeing Ethan soon made Amelia clutch her seatbelt tightly, a strange mix of anticipation and dread washing over her. Why such complicated feelings? She took a deep breath to calm herself. 3 years. You could get attached to a pet bunny in that time, let alone a man who did laundry, cooked, and knew how to cheer her up. There was bound to be an adjustment period. Amelia wouldn't admit, not even to herself, that she still held any lingering affection for Ethan. She was engaged to William now, the wedding set for October, just 2 months away. She wasn't here to rekindle things with Ethan. Once the Harper Enterprises mess was sorted, she would leave immediately. As for Ethan, as long as he wasn't with Victoria, he could be with whomever he pleased. It was none of her business. Thinking this way seemed to lighten the heavy feeling that had been building inside her. Amelia got out of the car, clutching a bottle of water. Before she even steadied herself, she spotted two figures in the distance. The lighting in the Oak Ridge community was poor at night, with streetlights spaced far apart. In the dim glow, she couldn't make out their faces clearly, but she instantly recognized Ethan. Leaning against the car door, her face paled slightly, but she quickly regained her composure, her expression turning into one of cool indifference laced with malice. Ethan. The pair obviously recognized her too, stopping about 10 meters away. They were holding hands. Amelia glared at Ethan as if she'd caught her husband cheating, her gaze darting between him and Victoria. She immediately launched into an aggressive interrogation. "Why are you with Victoria this late?" Ethan hadn't expected to see Amelia here. The feeling was akin to coming home only to step in dog crap, instantly souring his previously good mood. Amelia's tone was as condescending as ever, as if she'd forgotten that who he was with, what they did, or how late they stayed out had absolutely nothing to do with her anymore. The door of the other car opened, and William stepped out. The man who had been center stage at the recent family reunion birthday charity ball now looked utterly exhausted, a weariness that seemed deeper than mere travel fatigue. Amelia strode forward, her face glacial. "What were you two doing out there?" Victoria was wearing Ethan's jacket. It was now midnight. The place was deserted, and most importantly, they had been strolling hand in hand out of the woods. No wonder Amelia's mind leaped to conclusions. Victoria regarded the jealousy in Amelia's eyes with contempt. Already holding Ethan's hand and standing close, she leaned her entire body against him. A deserted spot in the middle of nowhere, a man and a woman alone, late at night. "What do you think we were doing?" The composure Amelia had maintained throughout the journey shattered completely. "Victoria, you really are desperate, aren't you? Couldn't you pick anyone else but my ex-fiancée? Like mother, like daughter, I suppose. Your mother was a shameless homewrecker who seduced her own sister's husband. And here you are, seducing your niece's man. And you, Ethan," she spat, turning on him, "couldn't you do better than this old hag? Do you have any idea how much she sleeps around? The number of escorts she's hired is probably higher than your age. Aren't you afraid of catching something just holding her hand?" She hurled the most venomous words she could conjure, as if venting days of pent-up resentment. All thoughts of asking for favors, the carefully planned, gentle words she'd rehearsed on the way, were utterly forgotten. She was like a backed-up sewer exploding, spewing filth everywhere. At this point, the crew members, who had been drowsy, were instantly jolted awake by Amelia's tirade. Even though the insults weren't directed at them, they couldn't help but suck in a sharp breath. Luckily, their cameras were already off. If this outburst had gone out on a live stream, who knows what kind of chaos it would have caused. That damn director, someone probably thought, always stirring the pot instead of doing his job. Bringing Amelia and William here as guest stars. Might as well turn this dating show into an all-out brawl. Then again, with netizens loving drama these days, maybe they'd actually eat this stuff up. Yeah. Ethan was the first to speak. His tone was relatively calm, but his handsome face darkened, his eyes glinting with a chilling coldness. "Watch your filthy mouth. Did you forget to wipe it after taking a shit? Just because you have a tongue doesn't mean you should flap it around showing off how nasty you can be. Who I'm with, where I go, what time I come back, it's none of your damn business. You're like a turd served on a plate, actually thinking it makes you special. At least shit is soft. You're just foul and hardened." Ethan didn't let go of Victoria's hand. Instead, he gripped it tighter, as if worried about her. Life must be boring when beasts try to cosplay as humans. Hearing this, Victoria couldn't help but laugh out loud. Across from them, Amelia looked utterly stunned, as if she couldn't believe Ethan was capable of saying something so harsh. In the 3 years she'd known him, Ethan had never sworn at her, never even raised his voice. He was known for his mild temper. Even when her friends mocked him to his face, he never retorted. But now, he was calling her a beast, all for Victoria. What she didn't know was that Ethan wasn't just insulting her. He wanted to hit her. Such blatant disrespect, cursing her own elders. If someone didn't smack some sense into her, she'd never learn her place. The fact that Amelia could shamelessly insult Victoria in front of everyone suggested she had likely always felt this way, always looking down on her aunt. Victoria was pleased that Ethan got angry on her behalf. It proved she held a place in his heart, an important one. She had thought it would take much longer to truly get close to him, but unexpectedly, Amelia's arrival seemed to have pushed her right in. Victoria looked at Amelia with a smile, though her eyes remained cold. She gently scratched Ethan's palm, soothing him. "Disciplining the younger generation is my job," she said calmly. "Let me handle this. You just stand back." An itch bloomed in his palm, and Ethan subconsciously tightened his grip on Victoria Harper's fingers. He looked up as she looked down. Ethan found no trace of anger on Victoria's face. She seemed accustomed to it, used to Amelia Harper's disrespect, her disregard for seniority, her casual insults. The thought ignited a nameless fire within him. Ethan rarely swore, but some people, if you didn't curse them out, would just push their luck forgetting their place. People remembered the Ethan from before he turned 18, but Ethan himself had forgotten. Cursing now made him feel young again, transported back to that time. When faced with insults and bullying, he chose to fight fire with fire. If talking nicely didn't work, fists would. Boys were subdued by fighting. Girls were crushed by sheer dominance. Swear when you needed to. As the saying goes, if you don't let the curse words out, your heart gets dirty. Ethan felt like he could unleash 10,000 more curses right now. Victoria Harper remained unconcerned, seemingly detached from the situation. "It's all right, don't worry. Go back inside and rest first." Ethan replied sternly, "No." Victoria looked at him gently, her tone carrying a hint of indulgence. "I want to have a private word with my little niece. If you don't want to go back to the room, just wait for me inside. I'll be back soon." As she spoke, she withdrew her hand. She'd wanted to pat Ethan's head, but with so many eyes on them, she settled for squeezing his shoulder. "Be good." Victoria coaxed him like a child. It wasn't just women who were easily swayed. Men could be quite pliable in certain aspects, too. When a woman acted coy, a man's head could spin. Child psychology wasn't just for children. It applied to many people. Even Ethan, with a mental age exceeding 50, found it hard to resist. Ethan relaxed his stance, preparing to obey and leave, when Amelia Harper, across from them, reacted as if a nerve had been struck. She suddenly raised the mineral water bottle in her hand and hurled it at Victoria. "Ethan, don't you dare leave. Stop right there." Ethan reacted instantly, shielding Victoria with his body. The bottle struck his back. Half a bottle of water didn't hurt much hitting his back, but Amelia had aimed for Victoria's face. If it had hit her eye, the consequences would have been unthinkable. Ethan spun around, fists clenched, veins bulging on his arms. Amelia's heart stuttered, her throat tightening. "What are you looking at me for? Was I wrong? You break off our engagement and immediately get involved with Victoria Harper? And you yell at me like this for her? Were you two hooking up behind my back all along? Ethan, you call me shit? Then what does that make you? If I hadn't pulled you back on that rooftop of the Mayo Clinic back then, you'd be dead. I gave you a second life." Amelia's mouth opened and closed, undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire. Violent impulses surged through Ethan. He wasn't typically hot-headed, but in this moment he saw red. Victoria lifted Ethan's shirt to check his back. "Does it hurt?" "No. It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, she wouldn't have hit you." Victoria stood behind Ethan, her soft voice tinged with sadness and grievance. "Ethan, I want to talk to Amelia properly. Make her understand there's no misunderstanding between us. What was there to talk about with someone like her? And this wasn't Victoria's fault anyway." Ethan turned back to look at her. Victoria's eyes seemed to hold a magical quality. She carefully cradled his clenched fist, instantly soothing his temper. Compared to the ferocious, harpy-like Amelia, Victoria was like a delicate flower bud glistening with morning dew, fragile and beautiful, needing to be cherished and protected. Ethan took a deep breath. "Call me if anything happens. I won't go far." Having finally coaxed Ethan away, Victoria watched him walk off before turning to Amelia. Hostility instantly condensed in her features, her pupils dark and devoid of warmth, as if looking at something inanimate. A sliver of fear struck Amelia, but she quickly composed herself, deciding Victoria wasn't that scary. She'd always been useless at Harper Enterprises. Even just now, when Amelia threw the bottle at her, all she could say was, "It's all my fault." Utterly spineless. Only Ethan would fall for it. Amelia was so angry she could barely breathe, wishing she could rip off Victoria's mask right then and there. "Victoria Harper, how can you be so fake? You don't like me being fake?" Victoria maintained her aggrieved expression, looking like a helpless, fragile flower. Such hypocrisy. Thinking of Ethan's repeated defense and concern for Victoria, Amelia clenched her fists, nails digging so deep in her palms she didn't feel the pain. Victoria slowly walked towards her. If a man hit a woman, right or wrong, he'd be looked down upon. Because men were naturally stronger, they'd be accused of bullying the weak, suspected of being abusers, condemned as immoral and ill-bred, followed by a dismissive, "Is he even a man?" No matter what, you shouldn't resort to violence. Violence solves nothing. Harmony is best. So, teaching Amelia Harper a lesson was something she had to do herself. "You don't like me being fake? Fine." Victoria's voice dropped. "Then I'll stop pretending." Before Amelia could react, Victoria slapped her hard across the face. Amelia, already weary from a full day of travel, couldn't withstand the blow. Victoria's slap sent her stumbling to the ground. But it wasn't over. Before anyone else could react, Victoria kicked Amelia in the stomach, aiming for where it hurt most. Seeing her try to scramble away, Victoria grabbed her hair, yanked her closer, and delivered 2 more slaps, left and right, leaving Amelia's face red and swollen. Amelia started screaming. She tried to fight back, but she was no match for Victoria's strength. Pinned to the ground, Amelia struggled like a slippery loach, shrieking, "Victoria Harper, let go of me. I'll have my uncle tie you up and deal with you. I won't let you get away with this. You bitch. You slut." At the mention of her uncle, Victoria, who had been about to let her go, kicked her twice more. "How old are you? Still running to tell the adults? I'd like to see how you won't let me get away with this." Victoria fished Amelia's phone from her pocket, opened the camera app, and aimed at her face, taking 2 photos. The flash was blinding. Amelia cried out and tried to shield her face, but Victoria quickly stomped on her hand, grinding her heel slightly. "Don't move, niece. Careful with your hand." Fear finally gripped Amelia. Her body trembled uncontrollably. The mouth that had been running so fiercely moments ago could only quiver now as she helplessly watched her trapped hand. After taking the pictures, Victoria tossed the phone down in front of Amelia for her to see. In the photos, Amelia's hair was a mess, her face swollen like a pig's, stripped of any resemblance to the young heiress she was. For a woman obsessed with her appearance, this was undoubtedly a massive blow. In contrast, Victoria remained elegant and composed. Despite the kicking and hitting, not a strand of hair was out of place. She tucked a loose lock behind her ear and looked down at Amelia condescendingly, her eyes brimming with contempt. "Got the photos for you. Go send them to your daddy and your uncle. Tell them I'll be waiting." Brutal. Absolutely terrifying. Now, I finally understand why Victoria Harper sent Ethan away beforehand. She must have been afraid of scaring him. You could tell Victoria Harper knew how to fight. Her strength was formidable, and this was her holding back. If she hadn't, she probably could have beaten Amelia Harper to death. After all, this is a society ruled by law, and with so many people watching, Victoria Harper couldn't actually deliver a fatal blow. The others reacted quickly too. Seeing Amelia Harper getting unilaterally pummeled by Victoria Harper, they rushed forward to intervene. As her aunt, disciplining her is for her own good. With a personality like hers, she'll easily suffer out in the world. If a child isn't taught properly at home, society will teach them a lesson later, and by then, it'll be too late for regrets. The message was concise. "I'm teaching my junior a lesson. Stay out of it." Seeing Victoria Harper had stopped hitting her, the production crew didn't step forward. Instead, they sneakily texted the director, asking when he would arrive. Only William went up. He first looked at Amelia Harper's face, then turned to Victoria Harper. "She's your niece, after all. How could you beat her like this? We still have to film tomorrow. How are we supposed to film now?" "Is that so?" Victoria Harper pondered for a moment, then snapped her fingers. "Then just don't film. Get in the car and go back now." William's face turned ugly. "Who do you think you are? Telling us to leave just like that? Do you think the director listens to you?" William wanted to step forward and help Amelia Harper up. He took just one step before a chilling sensation washed over him. Looking up, he met Victoria Harper's cold, menacing eyes. He was too scared to move forward, breaking into a cold sweat just from her glare. Victoria Harper wasn't done with Amelia Harper yet, and certainly wouldn't allow anyone else to take her away. You had to admit, the heiress of Harper Enterprises had some backbone. Even beaten like this, her gaze towards Victoria Harper showed no weakness, still brimming with hatred, like a viper in a ditch, waiting for the chance to strike back. Viper? To Victoria Harper, she was nothing more than a stink bug under her foot. She didn't believe anyone was truly untamable by force. If they weren't subdued, it just meant the beating wasn't hard enough, not vicious enough. A few more rounds would surely make her submit wholeheartedly. Victoria Harper scoffed, withdrew her foot, then grabbed Amelia Harper's hair, yanking her up like pulling a radish from the ground. Amelia Harper clutched her tearing scalp, letting out a pained cry as tears streamed down, mixed with humiliation. She hated Victoria Harper to death. She wished she could skin her alive, break her bones, destroy her face, grind her bones to dust. She would definitely kill her, make her wish she were dead. Victoria Harper raised an eyebrow. She liked this defiant look in Amelia Harper's eyes. It made the beating more interesting. Amelia Harper tried to stand up, but Victoria Harper suddenly kicked the back of her legs, forcing her straight back down her knees. Victoria Harper pressed her head down, preventing her from rising. Amelia Harper, don't test my limits. I beat you once in front of them, and I can do it a second time. Watch your mouth when you talk about my mother in the future. If she hadn't raised your mother, your mom would have died long ago back in Greenfield Township. Where would you be then? Her Memorial Day is in a couple of days. She probably heard what you said about her. I advise you not to go out these next few nights. Be careful she doesn't come looking for you. Just as Victoria Harper said this, a cold gust of wind swept through. Maybe it was just her oversensitivity, but Amelia Harper felt the chill seep down her neck, and the streetlights seemed to flicker. Amelia Harper's face turned deathly pale, a wave of belated fear washing over her. And Ethan, he's going to be your uncle. Show him some respect when you see him from now on. Amelia Harper gritted her teeth. In your dreams. Victoria Harper laughed. Niece, you really need to change this bad habit of yours. Always wanting what others have while holding on to something yourself. No one will indulge you forever. You've already thrown away the watermelon to pick up sesame seeds. Don't lose the sesame seeds in the end, too. She glanced pointedly at William. Victoria Harper spoke very quietly, in a voice only the two of them could hear. After saying this, Victoria Harper released Amelia Harper's hair, watching her slump to the ground like a pile of mud. Victoria Harper straightened her jacket, dusting it off. Good. Her clothes weren't dirty. She cast a cool glance at the others, seeing flickers of panic on their faces. Someone even took a step back. Luckily, filming had already ended for the day. Otherwise, the good image she had maintained for so long would have crumbled. I'm heading back first. I'll leave this for you to handle. Victoria Harper had only beaten Amelia Harper for about 10 minutes, just the right amount of time. Any longer, and she might have broken a sweat. Victoria Harper jogged back towards Oak Ridge Retreat. As soon as she entered the courtyard, she saw Ethan. Ethan, is it dealt with? Did anything happen? Did she curse you again? All dealt with. Just teaching a junior a lesson. Easy peasy. Victoria Harper walked towards Ethan, holding out her hands. I accidentally hit my hand against the wall just now. Look, it's all red. Plenty of lights have been left on in the courtyard for better filming, so the illumination was good. Ethan looked at Victoria Harper's palm. It really was red. How did you accidentally hit it against the wall? I tripped and lost my balance. Victoria Harper lied without batting an eye, shamelessly seeking comfort. Could you blow on it for me? Blow on it, and it won't hurt so much. Although he was standing in the courtyard, the walls weren't soundproof, and he wasn't deaf. He had heard at least some of the commotion outside. He'd heard Victoria Harper giving Amelia Harper a harsh lesson. So, how her hand got red was self-evident. Ethan didn't expose Victoria Harper's lie. Today was her birthday. You should indulge her. Let her be happy. Victoria Harper had just wanted to tease Ethan. With his reserved personality, he definitely wouldn't do something like blowing on her hand. So after saying it, she prepared to pull her hand back. Unexpectedly, Ethan actually grasped her wrist. Watching his face draw closer and closer, Victoria Harper's heart stuttered, and time seemed to stop. A cool breath brushed against her palm, slightly ticklish, making one instinctively want to grasp it. Victoria Harper twitched her fingertips, her hand uncontrollably clenching into a loose fist. As Ethan leaned down towards her hand, it looked almost as if he were kissing her fingertips. Victoria Harper felt an uncontrollable flutter in her heart. Usually, she was the one deliberately getting close to Ethan to tease him. Today, the roles were reversed. Ethan looked up, meeting Victoria Harper's shimmering, rippling eyes. He released her hand and asked, "Is it better? If I said it would only get better if you kissed it, would you?" Victoria Harper quickly found her counterattack. Ethan replied with mock seriousness, "If that were really the case, then I'd choose to send you to the Mayo Clinic. Let the doctors examine your hand properly, and while they're at it, examine my mouth too, to see why it possesses healing and pain-relieving properties." Victoria Harper's eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. This birthday was the happiest she'd had since her mother passed away. "Ethan, if Amelia Harper curses me again in the future, will you?" "I'll help you curse her back."